So he's not a morning person, and he's blamed every ailment under the sun for his forgetful memory and his erratic timeline of the morning that Madeline went missing. But the cops saw through it, and we're going to talk about his interview in today's video. Hello, the Sofa Squad, and welcome back to the sofa. The sofa's back there, and I'm right here. My name is Paul, if you're new to the channel. Now, what we're going to be doing today is a little bit of a revisit, but also looking at stuff that we haven't gone over before, at least on this channel. And what I'm talking about is STEPHAN STERNS interviews. This is in relation to the Madeline Soto case that we've been following here. Now, I talked about and did a video on like a portion of these interviews at one point, but more of them were released and this kind of a thing. And so this is going to be like the extended version, I guess you could say. So this is from Fox 35 Orlando. And there's like a couple of different things in here in this. I'm just going to go ahead and call it out, y'all. This is going to be a long video, okay? So when I listen to this, and if you follow me, you know, basically what I do is I go through and I pick out the clips that I feel are pertinent. Y'all, I was literally pulling clips out every few seconds because I was like, every second of this, my mouth is on the ground. It gives a whole different perspective knowing what we know now. And yes, in the previous video I did on like a portion of these, we knew things then too, right? But going forward, we know so much more now, okay? Now, if you are completely unfamiliar with this case, we'll just talk about it very quickly. So Madeline Soto had just turned 13, okay? And STEPHAN STERNS is her mother's her mother's boyfriend, on again, off again boyfriend. He was staying with them. He was like, I'll get up, I'll take her to school in the morning. Jen Soto is the mother of Madeline. Jen needed to get sleep for her job, so she sent Madeline to sleep in a different bed and room with STEPHAN STERNS. And he allegedly takes her to school the next morning. She never makes it to school, and so authorities are called in. They start going over cameras, questions, all this kind of stuff, and his story will fall apart. Now, eventually, as we know now, Madeline Soto's body was found. Cameras and whatnot don't lie, and it very quickly became evident that he was part of that. They found tons of images and stuff on his phone that date back years of the essay that he was doing to her, and so he's incarcerated where he belongs. He should absolutely never see the light of day, and you'll even feel that way even more after you hear some of the things that come out of his mouth in this video. So that's what this is about. This is not meant to be a deep dive in like all the aspects of the case, but specifically this here. Now, again, this is Fox 35 Orlando, if you want to listen to the whole thing without me talking through it. Now, I always like to say and remind everybody, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a private investigator, I'm not a police officer, I'm not a therapist, I'm none of that stuff, okay? I'm just a guy with a sofa, some sass, and let's be honest, a couple of personality disorders. But I just make up my opinions on these cases that we watch. They're just that. It's based on this very public information that we have here. So just know that and go into it understanding that. And I'm always interested to hear your point of view as well in the cases down in the comments section. So the way we do these videos, if you're unfamiliar, is I will put up a clip and then we'll talk about them in between. And that's kind of it. So let's go ahead and get to that first clip.
When is the last time that you saw?
Dropped her off yesterday morning.
Okay, about what time was it?
Approximately sometime between 8:25 and 8:40ish is when I dropped her off.
And where were you dropping her to?
I was taking her to school.
Got it.
Okay, so again, this is a police officer. This is the male police officer interviewing STEPHAN. Now we're going to hear a female investigator get involved too as well. There's multiple different interviews that they do. Now that little weird sound on the audio will level itself out here in a little bit. A huge thing to pay attention to while we're listening to these is the times that he's saying stuff in his story. Because what he will do is they will call him out, okay? So this whole thing between 8:20 and 8:40, they'll blow that out of the water, as well as the video camera footage. One thing that blows my mind with STEPHAN is, number one, how easily he lies. Number two, how much he lies. Now, obviously, it's like, well, Paul, duh, he took somebody's life, allegedly took somebody's life, but I mean, come on, do the math on that, right? Yeah, he took somebody's life. Of course he's going to be lying, right? I get that, okay? However, the amount of lies that he does and how quickly he'll come back with when they call him out, like, well, why does the video show you here? Oh, well, I forgot this. And then it creates another lie, another lie, another lie. So one thing that fascinates me about listening to this monster in these interviews is you're listening to someone getting caught red-handed, okay? We had already seen all the not the commercials, the media coverage of him, talking to the cameras, acting like, oh, poor Madeline. And he'll talk about her in here as well, just like that. So he presented this certain facade to the public, and then here you're seeing the beginning of sweet justice take place, right? Because these cops very quickly are like, huh? And when they put the pressure on him in a little bit, you'll hear him start to crack a little bit. It's very fascinating, but let's get on to the next clip.
It's my understanding that you dropped her off like a little bit away from school.
Yeah, she sometimes likes to get dropped off a bit down the road away. She likes to walk over and catch up with her friends, or just not being seen getting out of a hoopty in front of school.
Okay. And when you say hoopty, you're referring to your
car that she's embarrassed to be seen getting out of.
Got it. Okay.
The hoopty, his car. Here's the thing. And Jen says this too about her being embarrassed about the car and all that. She's probably embarrassed over him. I mean, we know what he was doing to her, right? And we also know at this point that it wasn't that common for him to drop her off, okay? Now, also on that note, I get it. Kids are kids, right? They don't want to be seen with their parents. This is a very normal thing, like, drop me off around the corner. So I don't put much weight in that. But one thing that is interesting to me, and this also fluctuates between Jen and STEPHAN, is how much they, and I don't even want to know if you say place blame, but where it's like, oh, Madeline was embarrassed. Oh, Madeline had this ailment. Oh, Madeline was on this. Like, all of this stuff that goes to her, and it's like her problem. And I'm just like, she's 13. Yeah, of course she wants to go hang out with her friends, right? Especially with this creep dropping her off, okay? And if he's dropping her off in some, like, train wreck of a car, that's just like normal teenage stuff. Yeah, but listening to him, it becomes almost like this personalized thing, like, oh, well, she's too embarrassed or whatever. Let's keep going.
Where did you drop her off at? Do you remember approximately?
It was...
You're good.
It was along the stretch of road, kind of where all those communities are, leading up to the overpass, and then the school's on the other side of the overpass. So I dropped her off along that stretch where all those communities are.
I was rolling my eyes at him yawning. Now, if you follow me, especially for like my book readings that I do, whenever I start yawning, I'm like, okay, my body is rejecting the book. Literally, it's like he's rejecting this interview, right? Now I'm sure he is authentically tired, but you can tell where it's just like, oh yeah. One thing that's psychologically fascinating about this is to listen to the things that he'll do along the way, like when they trip him up and he'll be like, oh, say that again, or like these little micro things that you do to buy time. Now, again, I ain't no body language expert. I clearly obviously watch this kind of channels, so you can kind of put two and two together, but I'm not qualified to say that's 100% what he's doing. But, you can tell where he starts to stall and do these like weird little mannerisms and whatnot. Now, again, this is another thing to pay attention to is when he's spitting this story out, it's a whole other thing when you're sitting here saying something and something like this happens. Nobody goes out and does their day thinking that tragedy will strike, and especially in this way of, now we're going to ask you to recount every little detail. Now, obviously we know in this situation he caused the tragedy, right? But think about if like he was not involved, like a normal scenario. Just think about the last time you ran out, like you went to the grocery store and something horrible happened to where now investigators are interviewing you and they're being like, well, what time did you go to Harris Teeter? And okay, when you pulled in, which thing did you do? And you would literally have to be like, okay, I think it was this time, I think it was that, whatever. However, there would be very obvious things that you should remember that he can't come up with. And so that part of it is interesting when you start to be able to tell, like, oh yeah, he's completely lying and he's making this up. And it would be hard enough to remember those details, let alone the fact that you're making them up as you go. And the fact that you're making them up as you go digs your hole deeper and you have to make more stuff up. It's an obvious no-win game for him, but I ain't complaining.
How common is it of you to drop her off to school in the morning?
It's not common for me to do it most of the time, but I'm up here and I'm helping out as much as I can and working, so she was trying to get as much sleep as possible. I was doing the school run this morning.
Okay.
Now, a couple of things here, and I forgot to mention this in the beginning. When you hear it blank out, like they've redacted the names and whatnot, now obviously we know a lot of these names that they're saying are Jennifer and Madeline. Now, did you hear that part? Oh, I'm trying to help out as much as I can. mean, seriously? Yeah, I'm so sure, right? Also, we know, hearing this from Jen, she does confirm this. Her stories like corroborate, if that's how you say that, where she was like, I had this job and I really need to like get some sleep, so I sent them two upstairs to sleep in the guest room. We already did that video. We've already discussed it. We know, right? The fact that he is readily admitting to this, one thing for me, I guess, is listening to another male interview him and he's talking about these things, because I'm thinking like this, I'm like, I wonder if this investigator is like, you what? You know what I'm saying? Like, huh? You know, because again, in this situation, this is very odd. Clearly we know, okay, let me preface this with this. Clearly we know at this point why he was okay doing that, right? I mean, it's very obvious. A normal situation like this, someone in his position, like the boyfriend of the mother, would never be cool with that, okay? 13-year-old, you know what I'm saying? They're talking about Madeline like she's a little newborn baby or something, like, oh, we gotta get her ready for bed and do this. Like, she's 13. You know, I needed some rest, so I sent them upstairs to sleep in the bed. What? Like, huh? I needed some rest. Why? It doesn't even make sense. It literally doesn't even make sense. Like, you sent your 13-year-old daughter, why isn't she sleeping in her own bed? And if anything, you tell your man, roll over and don't bother me tonight. You know what I'm saying? Or go sleep on the couch or whatever. But just send them upstairs talking about, oh, you know, why do they have to sleep together? That part doesn't make sense. So for me, listening to another dude talk to him, I was like, oh man, I'd love to be in this investigator's mind and hear like what he's really thinking, you know, about this. Because he had to have been like, bro, you were willing to what? Like, they had to have known instantly something was up with this before they even get to all the lies that they catch him in just in the interview.
Do you live here? Do you live somewhere else? Or what's that look like?
I live here, but I split my time between here and my parents' place down south in Northport. They're getting on in years and they need some help.
Got it. Okay. For how long have you lived here with them?
Oh gosh, years now. A couple years maybe now.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing. He's like, do you live here? I split my time. I do this, I do that. Here's my personal opinion. Again, I don't know them. I haven't gotten all up in it like that. You know, so there's that, okay? I personally think that STEPHAN was probably one of these type dudes. We see them often in these cases. Number one, Jen was his access to her daughter, Madeline. Plain and simple, that is at the forefront of this, right? I personally think probably Jen or any person that he was going to do these kind of things to their kid, like, he, you know what I'm saying, like, they pick people they can get to what they want, right? But he was probably the type dude that constantly played games with Jen to keep her in that realm of like, well, I want to be obedient or make him happy or do whatever because I don't want to lose him, I don't want to lose my man, so I'm willing to go to many different lengths, right? You see these kind of narcissistic, whatever you call it, whether they're narcissists, sociopaths, like, I don't know, right? Okay, one of those or all three, but the behaviors that they'll do to manipulate their partners to kind of just keep them in this incredibly like needy, like, you know, fear of losing them type situation, and probably pitting her against Madeline in some scenario, in some way, you know, because the way that he'll talk later about, oh, Madeline would, you know, talk on the iPad late at night and this and that, and, you know, I'm just like, this is okay, just I mean, this guy is so insanely creepy, okay? And if you follow the case and you watch him in the interviews and stuff like that, where like Jen's like consoling him and he's crying. Okay, this is the man that just took her daughter's life. Now, at this moment, she doesn't know about that. But I'm just like, she's more concerned about him. And that's what I'm talking about, where it's almost like he has pivoted her to be in that situation. You know, like broken her down to that level of that, like that's her concern of like, what do we have to do to keep him happy? And anything is fair game.
When did you start splitting your time between here and Northport?
A little while ago, my dad, I was working at Disney for a while, and my dad was coming up and getting lunch with me. Started discussing how, you know, they're getting on in years and they're going to need some help soon, and they'd really need me to come back down and help them out. And,
was that this year or last year?
Last year, heading into this year, yeah.
So like December-ish.
Yeah, they're already making end-of-life plans, so.
Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, at least they're getting a plan together now.
Okay, a huge thing in this right here is when he's like, I was working at Disney. I mean, y'all, you already know, right? Here's the thing with somebody like him. Of course he was working at Disney. You know what I'm saying? Like, it would almost be like him being like, I was working at a preschool. You know what I mean? Like, of course he found a way to get a job that would give him access to victims, right? Now, I'm not trying to say that, you know, he had victims at Disney, whatever, right? Okay. But it's the fact that he pivoted himself to be in that environment. It literally sends chills down my spine. Now, one thing here, he mentions his father planning end of life and doing this and doing that, blah, blah, blah. You know, one thing if you notice throughout this interview with people like him, but obviously him because we're talking about him, is he will constantly try to pivot himself as a victim in a way. And it could be just as simple as, oh, end of life stuff, you know, oh, I'm sorry about that. You see what I'm saying? You know, later on when he starts to get a little bit more desperate, it's, I'm not a morning person. I might make that the damn name of the thumbnail. Y'all, when we get to that part, y'all, I literally his go-to, okay? I'm not a morning person. I have ADD. I have all these little things trying to garner it. And eventually the cops, they're not going to be, we don't care. You know what I'm saying? It's so obvious that he's lying, but he's doing all these little things to try and garner something. It's like, it's not working. They know he's at the center of this.
So after you dropped her off sometime between 8:25, 8:40 area, do you remember?
I left my phone at home, so I wasn't sure what the...
Gotcha. That's fine. Do you remember what you did after? Or?
Yeah, after I left her, I was watching her in the rearview mirror. I was just driving away, and she looked like she was making her way towards the school like normal, so...
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing to keep in mind with this is, number one, the phone. I left my phone at home. Well, we know why he did that, right? Now, they'll get more into it later when they start really pressing him about his story and being like, well, if you did this, then why this and why that and blah, 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 right? The other thing with this is listen to how the thought out process that he's done of lying. Well, I dropped her off and I was looking in the rearview mirror and she was rumbling through her book bag. And I'm just like, these little details that he's snuck in there, thinking, oh, this is, here we go. I'll say this, she was looking for her phone. I don't know, and this will always baffle me, if this was, well, I do feel like I'm kind of answering my question as we go. The original question to myself was, I don't know what happened that evening that made him say instantaneously this has to happen. I don't think it was pre-planned, but I think something took place, right? Whether it was she woke up and saw what he's doing, or I'm going to go tell, or something, but it took place. Because I guess what I'm looking at is, did he ever think he would get away with this? When people do these crimes, well, how do they think they'll get away with them? Well, a lot of it's like, well, they're not planning on it. Something happens and they do it and then they have to start scurrying. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think he sought out to do this, but clearly something happened in that bedroom that he was like, she can't tell. And the way to fix that is to get rid of her, But on that level, it's like, did you really think this would work? I mean, seriously? Like, this is what you had to work with. Like, this is what you came up with over this. That part blows my mind.
With my day, I went over to the vape shop nearby. They were not open yet. So I came back home, hung out for a little while with Jen. And then after about an hour, I went to check the vape shop again, and they were open. So I took care of my stuff there, and it became a normal day.
Okay.
It became a normal day. Now, here's the thing. So you heard him just say, oh, I went to the vape store, they weren't open, blah, 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 blah. Well, later on, when they start presenting him with receipts, you were shown a video here. The vape shop opens at this time. So where were you? Well, I was taking my time getting there. Well, why didn't you say that? Notice the answers he's giving now. They will call him out. Now, obviously, we know he's lying, right? But I'm looking at this through the lens of like the moment of nobody knows yet. Like, we haven't found her yet. And so we know, or, they don't know for fact, right, that he's lying, but they can start piecing it together. And this is where he's painted himself into a corner because the cameras don't lie. He will try and talk his way out of it here in a bit when we listen to him. Well, no, I was here during this time, but the camera shows you over here. It's not magic, honey. You ain't in two places at one time, okay? And this whole thing, but such the most complicated morning ever, right? Well, I went here and I forgot about that. I had to go back and get this. Oh, and then I came back. Well, then we're open. I did this, and it's like, dude, All this driving around. Insanity. Now, another place he'll screw himself up with, and he'll sit here and be like, we're really proud of ourselves for how much time how quickly we got out of the house. When they leave the house, compared to when he drops her off for school, it's like, what were you doing? You know what I'm saying? That he can't account for any of that, though.
So, just to go through I asked Jennifer the same questions, just to go through everyone's days, but just to go through yours. So you dropped her off at school, and you said you went to the vape shop?
Correct.
They weren't open?
Correct.
Do you remember about what time you got home?
Got home around maybe 10:15.
Gotcha. And was Jennifer here?
Yeah, Jen was here. She had been sleeping in. Her new work schedule has had her kind of messed up, so she was trying to sleep in as much as possible.
Gotcha. So when you got back around 10,
she was just
waking up.
Yeah. So we hung out for a little while, chit-chatted. Then I went and checked the vape shop again, got my stuff, came home again, hung out for a little while. We talked about maybe, doing some BJ shopping or something after we picked up. And she wanted to take a nap again. I had a couple of errands I needed to run, so that worked out fine.
Sorry.
I wanted to check out a couple of the card game shops in the area.
Oh, okay.
One of my trading card games just had a new release, so I just wanted to look at stuff. Ended up getting a flat tire.
Okay.
So that's one of my hoopties on a
Oh,
hoop
where'd you
now.
get a flower? Where'd you get a flat tire?
192. That was hair raising.
And that was when you were out shopping during the day?
Yeah. And that was between the hours of noon and like 2.
So much going on. Oh my gosh. Okay, now, first of all, Jen just has to constantly sleep, right? She needed a nap again. Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, come on. That worked out because I had to go run some errands. What were those errands, Stephan? What were you doing right now? Obviously, we know things add up now or whatever. Again, back to the damn vape shop. This part is just like oh my gosh. Like, so many running errands that are pointless. And then, I got a flat tire. Now, when he starts going in the flat tire and using this as, again, you'll hear in a second about trying to gain sympathy with something that happened. We know now that this is one of the key elements of where they're like, the video shows differently, right? With locations and stuff like this, whatever. So, but again, there's so many lies to keep up with on his part. There's absolutely no way you could memorize all this stuff. Now, also the card game, there's a new release. And like, what a leisurely little life that he claims to live, right? I got up but the vape shop was closed and I didn't want to wait for the 5 minutes, so I went back home, then I went back to the vape shop. And then I did this and I did that. And you're just like, really? I mean, just the initial story, you can the red flag material is all over it. Okay, let's keep going.
Got it. And then so after...
Because we needed to leave by 2:30 to go get in line and get ready to pick up.
Got it. So you guys went and picked her up together?
That was the goal. Yes, I was going to go with them, but I ended up getting a flat tire. So
you couldn't?
Yeah, I got back literally 10 minutes after she left, apparently.
Got it.
No, he just missed it. Now, obviously, it's only common sense at this point. Of course, he was never going to want to go to the school because he knew she wouldn't be coming out, right? He knew that was going to happen. He knew he had a timeline to make damn sure A, B, and C were done before it popped off after school. So he knew everything was going to pop off after school. So, that was the goal. We wanted to, I got the flat tire. Again, knowing what we know now, and listening to a story, going back over it, you can see completely what he was trying to do and to pull off. And thank God it didn't work.
Now, can you remember the day prior to Monday? Do you remember, I guess if anything happened between Saturday night and Monday when you were here that might have sparked wanting to...
She was so happy.
Okay. Because already, right?
Yeah, all 3 of us are together and... She was so happy.
She was so happy. The way he said it too, she was so happy. Ugh, It's like I can smell him from here. You know what I'm saying? Ugh. You know, all three of us were together. You would think that they were just this happy nuclear family, according to him. And of course he's going to say that. Like, what else would you expect? You know what I'm saying? He's not going to be like, no, she was always depressed when I was around. You know, I was doing like creepy stuff to her at nighttime. I mean, he's not going to say that. I get that, right? But it's just listening to someone like him in action, because this is him. This is his routine. This is how he does what he does, is these lies, these things he says, and it's just repulsive.
Tell me about Sunday night. Tell me about Sunday into Monday. What you remember?
She had just had a party. She was excited. Sorry.
It's okay.
Just talking about crushes. Her singing that was coming out, and he wanted me to come see her sing.
Literally is pissing me off to a point that's like not, I don't think this should be normal. You know what I'm saying? Listen, sorry. Really? When he starts crying, the fact that we know, I mean, you know what I'm saying, like within reason that what happened, at least at the time of this recording, right? I mean, this is alleged, you know what I'm saying? The fake crying, the mustering up tears. She was talking about crushes. I mean, this is the thing. The things he was doing to her, it's like at some point, you know, I guess this was inevitable in his world. Because it's almost like, yeah, at some point, I mean, what, like, maybe he doesn't think of that. And this is the first time he did. She's gonna grow up and tell. You know what I'm saying? Like, he started this abuse off when she was younger, and maybe this was the time of like, oh, here we are at the inevitable. She's gonna go tell. She's gonna go do this. You know, she's gonna whatever. She's talking to boys, like all this type of stuff. She's becoming a young lady, right? And clearly she had to go in his book. But it's the fake crying for me. I would love to know if the officers were like, yeah, there were no tears, right? Because even if you go back to the media coverage, like the, you know, the interviews and stuff he did with Jensen, they were consoling him, and his little like crying that he does in the background, I'm just like, it's so over the top. I'm like, really? Like that alone was totally suspicious.
And so Jennifer shared with me, typically you normally sleep in the upstairs guest bedroom.
Yeah.
And then she will sleep together in her own bedroom. But Sunday, so Jen could get better sleep, she said she just sent you both upstairs, correct? Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Do you remember about what time you went to bed and woke up?
At probably 11, quarter after. Wound up after her party. And we were getting up really, really early so we could make good time getting out of the door, so we got up around 7.
Now, here's the thing with this. I mean, first of all, again, going back to the, okay, you sleep upstairs, all this. The cop is being very neutral, which would be the best thing to do in this scenario, right? Because you want him to keep giving you information. So obviously, if you're judgmental, like, oh my God, are you crazy? Like, he's going to shut down, okay? So they want to come off like this is totally normal. Like, okay, yeah, she needed sleep. Okay, yeah, so you went up there. Oh, she was wound up. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, that poor girl. My God. You know, the one thing that should be, and I don't know how to say it, that you should be able to take for granted. You know what I'm saying? Which is like being safe in your own home. You know, not being violated by the men coming and going, you know, your mother's boyfriend, whatever. And she didn't even have that. You know, it's heartbreaking. The other point I want to make about this particular segment is that we were getting up really, really early to make good time. Here's my thing with this, right? Okay, so when do you normally drop her off? No later than, and it's like almost close to 9 o'clock, right? So I'm like, why were you trying to leave that early? Okay, we had to make good time. Why? Okay, we were gonna go to McDonald's. We'll get that in a minute. You know, the only thing you're doing is going to card shops and vape stores during the daytime. It's not like you had anything pressing. Jen's taking marathon naps all day long. So this whole thing of like, oh, we had to get out of the door early. Well, we know because he's wanting to get the body out of the house, right? That's obvious. Of course you're going to want to get her out of the house before anybody is truly stirring around. He had to have done this at some early hour or whatever because they have roommates and whatnot. So I wonder if like this part right here, when you just do the basic, I don't even know if you say math, but just look at the basic timeline of, well, if school starts here, it takes this long and blah, 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 blah. Why are you trying to get out? Like, what did you do?
Yeah, y'all left pretty early.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you see Jen at all in the morning? Or was she
Yes.
still asleep?
Yeah, I saw her a couple times. I was in and out of her room talking to her.
Got it. Okay. And that was before you left around, what time did you leave? About 8:30?
No, earlier than that. We made such good time. I mean, we were so impressed. We made such good time getting out the door. I mean, we were probably out by 7:30, 7:45.
Okay.
No, earlier than that, we were impressed with the time that we made. 7:30, 7:45, and that's where I'm like, why? Like, what's the point to it? This is the first thing. But obviously, if you're trying to do this, surely he would know, I'm going to have to account for certain timelines. So if he did leave, which I believe that he left that early, because again, he was trying to be, discreet or whatever about the body. But listening to it, removing yourself from his situation, it doesn't make sense. It's like, well, why go that early? Oh, she wants to talk to friends or whatever. But still, it's like, this is an insane amount of like time that you're trying to account for.
All right, man. Well, I mean, you know her better than I do. Is there anything you can think of that, as someone who doesn't know her, that I might be missing out on here? Like somewhere she may like to be, or somewhere she...
Everything that everywhere that we think she could possibly be, we've checked. I mean, literally, the whole family is just...
So that the deputies found the video from the church last night of her in the parking lot.
We heard that they saw someone.
So, can you think of a reason that she might have gone and waited in that church that's across the street for a couple minutes before she would have headed back off to school?
No. I mean, she had time to kill, so I don't know. She said she was going to hang out and find her friends, but when I left her, she was on the other side of the street, rummaging through her backpack and just kind of moving towards the school area. So
now, another creepy part to this is the whole church videotape thing. Now, remember, if you follow me on this and my opinion of how Jen speaks and whatnot, and when Jen speaks, she adopts information as her own. So when she's like, oh, we saw the video of her, and she talks like she saw this, but it's like, well, no, actually, you're getting like third-hand information. Well, we all know, right? This isn't her, okay? So it's like him talking, which I thought was interesting for him to say, yeah, they said they saw someone or something. He doesn't say, yeah, we heard that she was on video. Like, he knows, obviously he knows he's the one who did it, right? So he knows she wasn't there, okay? He knows this. The fact that he didn't try and throw them a curveball and go with what they were saying is very interesting to me, because you would think he would have, right? Now, again, I'm not complaining that he didn't, right? I mean, come on. But you would just think that somebody in his position would have gone along with that.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm just trying to figure out, what might have caused her to go there and then what caused her to leave. Because I think she did stay there till about 8:50, just before school starts. When does school start? 9:30?
9:15, I think, is the latest that they should be there by. I think it starts around 9:20 officially.
Gotcha. Is she familiar with that parking lot at all? Is that somewhere she hangs out?
I mean,
or?
a lot of the kids will sort of rendezvous there before heading into school.
Now, I've probably asked this in other videos, but I'll go ahead and ask it again in this one. Help me out here with this. Why does school start at, what did he say, 9:20, 9:30, or 9:15? They have to be in there, whatever. Why is that? Is that like how things roll now or whatever? Because when I was a kid, don't hold me to it, but I felt like school started like super early in the morning. Super early. I could be totally wrong, okay? But was this like a certain type of school? Like, why did it start that late in the day? Number two, again, right there, it's like, oh, we made good time. We left at like 7:30. It's like, if it starts at 9:30, why? Again, this massive amount of time to get out of the house. Now he's come up with this, that, and the other, and obviously, again, I know why that is. I can remember in high school where it was a big thing to, get to school, and this is especially when you start driving. We would hang out before school, smoke cigarettes, do all that, and that was a thing. But even then, we weren't getting there like 2 hours early because school started psycho early in the morning. So it would be like, get there, you have 30 minutes or whatever to, smoke your cigarettes, do your thing, and then the day starts. So the middle school thing, but again, I get times have changed. To me, I'm just like 13 years old and you're showing up that early at school to hang out. Like, is that what the kids are doing these days? You know what I'm saying? Like, I could see 15 minutes, or something like that, but I'm like, that's crazy. But again, I get, times are changing. I mean, I'm going back a long time, right? Like 30 years, okay, for my own experience. So obviously things are very different, and maybe that's just the new norm. But to me, this just seems very odd.
Do you recall seeing any other kids walking in the area when you were dropping her off?
We were early. Earlier than usual. She was confident that it was fine. She was just going to hang out and wait for her friends.
Okay. Did she mention that to you at all? Or
Yeah,
did she say anything?
I asked her, because we were a little early, we still had some time to go. I said, you want me to wait with you? She said, no, just drop me right here. I'm going to walk up and find my friends.
Again, when I hear him making stuff up that she said and did, it just infuriates me, but also is heartbreaking. We'll also hear this here shortly when we get into the whole thing about, like, I was going to take her to McDonald's. And then this is when they start tripping him up in his timeline, and the way that he'll come up with, like, multiple times having to go back to the same places for the same stuff. And it's like, the cops at this point were like, really? But even right here where he says, like, oh, we were earlier than normal. Yeah. And again, if we're going based on the fact of like time travel, that we don't know what happened to her yet. Okay, what was the rush? Why are you presenting this to us, Stephan? Why is this whole thing of like, we're trying to get out of the house and do this and we're here so early? You would have thought that would have made a difference. But again, probably back at home, he's like, I have this body. I can't have Jen doing this or that, the other. I need to get away from the house. But once you do that, you're going to be privy to people being able to say, hey, he was here, he was there. And the video evidence will show that, as we'll hear in a few minutes. Now what we're going to do is we're going to hear the secondary interview. This is with the female officer. Now parts of these I've already done in a shorter video or whatever. However, this one's like way more in depth or whatever with the interview that they released. So again, I said this with Jen, same thing with him. Notice how much more direct the female investigator is. She's more boom, here's these questions, yes or no. We're really getting down to black or white, yes or no. No gray zone, no maybe. We need to know this information right here.
Okay, so I know that you already spoke to the other detective, right, about everything that kind of happened today. If you can just kind of go over it with us one more time, the timeline from like when you guys woke up and took her to school and all that.
So we woke up early. The plan was that we were going to get McDonald's breakfast on the way, so we made amazingly good time.
I don't mean to interrupt you, okay? Neither of us were here yesterday, so if you can be kind of like specific about like times and stuff like that, okay?
It never ceases to fail or amaze me, or however you say it. In these interrogations, these interviews, these media, things that the defendants do, when they're asked a question about what happened and they start with this. Okay. And you know exactly who I'm thinking of too. What are their names with classic and sincere, the adoptive parents? I can't think of their names now. They're incarcerated, thank the Lord. Started off this same exact way with a... Okay. I'm trying to think of now, obviously, and I hope I never have this experience, of legitimately your loved one is missing and you've been asked 100 times over what happened. And they come to you, okay, we need you to go over things. Would your reaction be, okay. Now, I can see being like this. They've asked you, and again, this is like legitimate. You had nothing to do with it, right? Okay, we need to go over okay, let's see. So where do you want me to start? Your perspective would be so different. Your perspective would be so much I'm trying to help. I want to, almost like I want to help so much, I'm being overly helpative. I was going to say helpative. We're making words up as we go. But you know what I'm saying? Like to where you almost are like you're trying to solve it yourself. I don't know what the psychological term is for it, but it's like where you want to help and so therefore you almost give wrong information, but not in this same type way or whatever. That type thing, as opposed to sounding annoyed or more than that, stressed. Because here's the thing, and we're about to get into this, and I love this part of seeing justice slowly take place, and this is the beginning of it when their lives fall apart. This right here is, I'm annoyed, I've been asked this all along, I need to try and get my story straight, because if you've been lying as much as STEPHAN has and you've made this stuff up, you're screwed, okay? Because there's so many lies, and so it would be very stressful. It'd be like, okay, here we go, let's keep going.
Woke up around 7:15, somewhere around there, which is an early start for us, but we had talked about getting McDonald's breakfast beforehand, so we wanted to make good time. We did make good time. We got out the door maybe 7:30ish, 7:45ish maybe. Got over to that area. She was asleep in the car most of the time, just snoozing until we got there. We got to McDonald's. We're close to McDonald's. I said, "Do you still want it?" Wasn't interested in the McDonald's anymore, so we continued on.
Okay, now notice this right here. Notice the timeline that he gives now. Now he's giving 15-minute windows. We got it like 7:15. Okay, then we're out of the house, 7:30, 7:45. And then the damn McDonald's thing. Again, so many people have said this in the comment section or live chats, whatever. And yeah, what kid is going to turn down McDonald's? You know, and the way that he goes about it, I even tried to go back again. Right there, I'd have been like, book him. Go on, fire up old damn Sparky. We're about to save some taxpayers some money. Okay, get the shocker belt. Get Sarah Boone's damn shot collar, slap it on him, and turn up at about 100. Okay. I mean, just come on, dude. You know, and again, I know why he's doing this. I'm not trying to be dumb about it or whatever, right? He is getting caught lying on the spot and trying to change his story. But it's infuriating to listen to. And again, being the cops, it's just like, can you imagine dealing with this? And I know they don't deal with something like this on a daily basis, right? But when this case is popping off like this and you're trying to get to it and you can see like, yeah, our investigation, it's not moving past the mom's boyfriend. Okay, we can't. In fact, it's like he's at the center of it, right? It would be so frustrating having to bite your tongue and just play along to get the information, knowing, because their little spidey senses, and by there I mean the police, the investigators, whatever, the detectives, whatever they're called, they know, right? They probably instantly knew, like, she's probably not coming home at this point. Right, like we've been around long enough to know something is insanely shady with this dude. So we're trying to figure out not where she went or what happened, but what he did to her.
And she wanted to be dropped off a little down the ways from the school. She's got this phase that she's been into lately where she's very particular about what car she's seen getting out of in front of the school. She prefers like cars are, I guess, kind of hoopties. I get it. It's an image thing. But that was sometime probably between 8:20 and 8:40-ish.
I get it. It's an image thing. Pretend like maybe that was true. And again, I've already said this in the video, but I'll say it again. Pretend like that part is true, right? Again, that's very normal, teenagey. You just think back to that time in life, like everyone is embarrassed over their parents, right? It doesn't matter who your parents are. You go through that phase where you are embarrassed of them. It's just a part of growing up, but it's also a part of learning to appreciate them, right? Because most of the time the way it works is you go through this thing of I'm embarrassed of them to they don't know anything. Then you get out of that, you know, and you start being like, oh wait, I kind of need mom and dad, and oh wait, maybe they do, you know, maybe they do have some advice. You know what I'm saying? So all this type of stuff. Now, that being said, we know the situation going on here in her household, right? So it would be completely normal for her to not want to be around him any more than she has to be, for her to be grossed out by him, for her to have the ick by him, for her to be ashamed of him. all these things. He was a monster, okay? So, no, that part. But the fact that he says, I get it, it's an image thing, it's like a snapshot into his personality of what he might have been like at home. And some of the art, like I can immediately envision them at home. It's like after school, like this is a normal day or whatever. You know, they're doing whatever they do. And he's like giving this lecture where he's like demeaning her, you know, being like, well, yeah, I guess we just drive hoopties. You know, I get it. You know, it's an image thing. You think you're better than us, or, you know, like that manipulative type stuff that someone like him does. And just the energy level. I keep going back to imagining what Madeline experienced and felt like on a day after school or coming home, and knowing he was there. Now we've heard the evidence of people, you know, teachers, whoever, talking about she did better when he was gone and whatnot. So that oppressive energy that had to have been in the home when he was there, it had to have been, right? And that feeling, I can just see her coming home from school. And then it's even worse when you think of, because you know how like middle school and like school in general, it can be like hard, right? You're gonna have tough days. If you're not like, well, even if you're the popular kid, but like, I mean, it's brutal, especially middle school. So I'm envisioning her having some rough day and then wanting that solace, that safety of coming home to that place that you know you at least have that, right? But she doesn't have that. She doesn't have that at all. And in fact, she's thrown into a situation where not only does she not have that, but she doesn't even have the sacred space of, at least I can go close my door and get away from this monster for 5 minutes. She's being ushered to sleep in the bed with him. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely kills me. Gives me goosebumps, whatever you call it. Let's keep going.
So it was on that side, on that stretch of road, and that's where I dropped her off. She said she was going to go wait for her friends. She was going to find them and hang out and wait for her friends. And I asked if that was going to be okay. She said, yeah, it's fine. Kids get dropped off early enough as it is. It's not totally unusual for that to happen. It's just not usually that early that I drop her off. I do school runs every once in a while for her. I said, okay. Let her out. Have a good day. Love you. Thanks, love you too. And I turned around and was driving away and was watching her in my rearview mirror to make sure that she was going where we're supposed to go. And she was moving in that direction, but she was rummaging around in her backpack or something. What I assumed was probably headphones or something like that, but I find out later that she forgot her phone here, so she may have been rummaging for her phone.
I love you, I'm sure he said that to her, right? Sure he said that to her. Again, he envisions this. So I was looking in my rearview mirror and she was rummaging, but she left her phone. I heard the detective at one point when he said something, she goes, She's way more that kind of thing. You know who it reminds me of, and I've probably said this multiple times and I'll continue to say it because I forget about it until the next time, is the Sarah Boone, I don't mean to bring Sarah Boone up, the Sarah Boone interview with the female and the male investigator. And the female investigator in that had so much of this energy, way more direct, way more, calling her out, that type thing, where the dude was like more, in the beginning at least, more relaxed. You know what I'm saying? Like kind of like getting her comfortable and whatnot. And the female was as well too, but it's just this very direct, very, you know, and she very quickly will start cutting him, like STEPHAN off. Not cutting him off, but like, she ain't putting up with his BS, okay? She ain't putting up with it. Now, again, when he talks about this, you know, the dropping off at school and the, are you okay? And, it's, you know, he knows he has to make something up as to why he dropped her off so early. So it's almost like he's bringing light to it because he knows it's odd, right? And it's not that normal. Like, I wonder if Jim was like, why are y'all leaving so early? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is it? We're going to go to McDonald's. Okay. I mean, is it that busy? You know what I'm saying?
So we were pulled onto here, and then we pulled maybe about halfway up here, and I dropped her off somewhere in this area here.
And she walked from there to the school?
Yeah.
It's a pretty long way.
It's maybe a block or so, but it's not out of the ordinary for her. She likes to do that sometimes. She likes the cold weather. She was wearing her hoodie. She likes the cold walk.
So you dropped her off near Lilac? Does that sound right?
Yeah, it wasn't at a cross street. It was just a bit of the sidewalk there.
So did you merge into the sidewalk, or did you stop in the middle of the street, or?
I just pulled over to the sidewalk there. Let her hop out.
Okay, now here's one thing. You heard the cops. You dropped her off where? Is that normal? Now again, and I'm not trying to, give him, whatever. I look at my own experience of things where I'm just like, yeah, I could see that. Like, I'm somebody even now who, like, when I go to the grocery store, I'm like, oh, let's park in the very back of the parking lot. We'll get more steps in. You know what I'm saying? So a kid wanted to buy time or hang out with friends, like that doesn't strike me as abnormal. What is interesting, and again, in this clip right here, and pay attention as we go forward, is where they start to press him about exact movements. Because again, remember, if you legitimately did this, you had nothing to do with, in this situation, your girlfriend's daughter missing. Okay, when you pulled up, what did you do? Now, he'll get tricky about this later. He was a little more direct here. You would immediately be able to kind of think back and be like, yeah, when I pulled up, well, yeah, I pulled over like around here. When they start pressing him for exact details, well, how did you do this? He can't answer it because he's getting caught. He lies so much, and that's what I absolutely love about this, is how they catch him in it. Yeah, but that, again, is when you listen to these things, think about how diligent you would have to be if you pulled something like this off where you were like, this is my story, it is made up, but I'm gonna stick to it, and I'm gonna pretend that this is how this went down. You would have to be able to name bizarre little tidbits of information that you normally wouldn't think of to answer questions like what they're going to be asking him and what we're going to listen to.
How often do you drop her off?
This might be the 5th or 6th time I've ever done it.
Okay. And when you drop her off, where do you normally drop her off at?
Normally down the street from the school. She requests that a lot.
Like the same area or somewhere else?
Especially if it's sometimes in the church parking lot, sometimes just wherever she tells us to let her out.
Now again, listening to them, like, how many times have you done this, and where do you normally drop her off at, and this, that, and the other, you can start to hear he gets shaky. At least in my opinion, right? Again, I don't know the man, so this could be how he talks, whatever. Sometimes in the church parking lot, and he knew to say that, right? At least in my opinion, because they allegedly had video of it or whatever. But you hear the way the cops are talking. Now remember, the cops are going to have all this other information, right? They're going to be like, well, honey, they're not saying it right now or like this, right? But it's like, honey, we've already gone back and gotten A, B, and C, and this is not making sense. Cops have been around the block, so to speak. Literally this block they're talking about, but you know what I'm saying. So they can smell a fish when it's cooking, right? And his fish is burning.
The McDonald's that you guys were going to stop at, did you pull into the plaza at any point?
No, she 86'd the idea before we even got there.
What do you mean by 86?
Poo-pooed the idea, didn't want it anymore.
Okay.
Wasn't in the mood anymore.
What do you mean by 86? Poo-pooed the idea. Shut up. Answer the damn question. Seriously. Absolutely infuriates me. And this whole thing with did you pull in the plaza? This is where he knows he's screwed, right? Because I'm like this, I'm like, why would you lie about McDonald? You know there's video cameras. Why would you lie about some of the things that he lied about unless you're just literally like, you're desperate? That's the only thing I can come up with.
At any point while you were driving to the school, did you make a U-turn?
Yeah, I tried to sell her on McDonald's one more time because I was still kind of hungry, but at that point she was also just wanting to get to school.
Okay,
so
where?
Turned right back around.
Where did you make that U-turn at?
Actually, the school not the school parking lot, the church parking lot. I pulled into that, turned around and pulled back out. Did a U-turn there and went back to the McDonald's, and she still wasn't having it, and that's when we came back. See, the McDonald's is on the same town loop or town center. It connects to the same road that the
right there. If they didn't know, they know. Did you ever do a U-turn at some point? Oh yeah, I did. I forgot about that. He didn't say I forgot about it. I tried to get her to do McDonald's again. I was still hungry. Then go through damn McDonald's. This is the thing that doesn't make sense. Now he knows he's screwed right here. Okay, this is right here. Done. Okay, here's the thing. If this is a lie you're truly selling, and again, I get it, I'm answering my own questions, he's making it up as he goes, and they're calling him out, so he changes the lie around, he's panicking, he has adrenaline, I get all that. The whole dynamic of trying to get her to take McDonald's, he wants it, why wouldn't you go through there? If it's enough to go back twice, just go through. You don't have to get her something. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't make sense. But of course it wouldn't because it's all made up.
That the school's on?
Yeah, so it's like a straight shot.
So you guys came from, just so I can kind of get a good visualization, town center, and where did you come from, town center?
Town center, so where's the McDonald's? I'm so bad at reading these, I'm sorry. So we
This
came,
is all town center.
So we came across on Town Loop, I believe.
Now, again, this is where they're going to start getting into like the specifics. Like, okay, well, show us right here, you know. And again, you'd have to know you're screwed. Like, the only logical thing you could be doing at this point, if you were him or somebody in this predicament, is to be like, I just need to lie enough to get out of this situation, and then I'm going to pack my stuff and hit the road and hope for the best. You know, because at this point, you're caught, dude. You know, you're caught. Now, of course, we'll hear here in a bit about, well, I accidentally reset my phone and this and that and blah, 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 blah. You know, but again, knowing the evidence that was found and the way that it was found, all the way from the camera footage showing where his car movements were, the stuff on his phone. At this point, the only thing he should be trying to do, and I'm not trying to help him out here, but I mean, let's just look at this logically, is to get out of this interview without handcuffs on himself, go home, pack his stuff, and then head for Mexico. Something, right? Because it's like, dude, you are smoked.
Is that the school is that the road that the school is on?
No, this is town center. So
Okay.
you said you were on town center, and then you made a right on town loop, which is the one that takes you to the school,
Yes, correct.
right?
I think you passed it.
But what I'm saying is, before town loop, or I'm sorry, for town center, what street did you take?
I'm so sorry. I'm bad with the streets around here.
How do you usually get to the school?
I just take John Young and then wait till I see the McDonald's and make a left there and then follow that around, and that goes straight into the road that the school is on.
Again, he's getting all tripped up here. I'm sorry, I'm really bad with the streets around here. Now, here's the thing too, and I'll say this, and again, I'm looking at this in different lights. You know, I like to look at it through like, okay, well, how would I react, or how would a normal person that wasn't guilty or whatever in this situation do? Okay, I'm really, really bad with street names. Like, even the town where I'm from, I could not begin to tell you. Like, even a normal street that I take every day, well, obviously there's like major highways, but like, I turn at this road to go into Harris Teeter, I have no idea what that name is. But I can tell you, I'm like, oh, it's the light up at where the Walgreens is, you know, up at Cole Park. I can tell you that, like right at the bat, boom, there's that, you know. But things like this, I'd be too like, I don't know the name of that. And they'd probably be like, aren't you from here? Didn't you go there 100 times a day? Yeah, I do. But couldn't tell you. But again, I'm somebody who literally in my world, I'm like, how did I ever make it before Google Maps? Okay, MapQuest printed it out. If you know, you know, right? But that's what I had to do before that. But before that, y'all, I have no sense of direction. So I would be really bad in this scenario. I mean, really, really bad. Oftentimes when I'm driving around and I think like, you know, like say you see something, an accident, whatever, and you need to call 911, y'all, I would be horrible with this to be like, I can't tell you where I'm at. Like, I could give you landmarks and things like this. You know, so this part's interesting. Now, specifically back to the case at hand, well, we know that he's making this up, right? So they're pressing him and showing him a thing. Okay, point here what you did, right? And again, he's just digging himself deeper and deeper and deeper.
I mean, at the McDonald's, you turn right?
And then you said you made a left at the McDonald's? So
Yeah,
that's John Young Parkway, you're going north
left
on
at
John Young?
McDonald's and then go around, and then that shoots straight into the road that she's on.
Okay. Because that's...
I believe that's the correct road.
Yeah, well, that's the fastest way to get there. But you told me you came from town center and town loop.
I'm sorry, I don't know the street names.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Just listening to that whole interaction, you took a left, you took a right, you did that. I'm like, oh my God, this is insane. This should not be this difficult, right? If it was true, it wouldn't be. And that's the thing. The cops know this, right? They know the difference. And I'm not trying to say they're without fail or anything like that, okay? Obviously. But in situations like this, I mean, listen to us who aren't cops, and we're listening to this like, something ain't right. So somebody who does this all the time, you know they know. Now, obviously, that could also be they have a bias because they're geared to being like everybody's guilty or whatever. You know, but regardless, in this situation, a little girl is missing and things aren't adding up. The stepdad cannot account for anything. Now, we haven't even gotten to the point where he starts adding information in. He's done it a little bit by changing little things up. Oh, 7:15 we left. Oh, we got here at this time. Oh, I can't remember that. Those are little red flags that it's like, yeah, we're counting for normal, like I'm nervous or I'm tired or this, but we're already getting into we shouldn't be having this issue with memory. And then a little bit we'll hear one of them, I think the female investigator, ask him like, do you have memory issues? Yeah, because it's like, what's up, dude? Okay, like this is out of control. What's your name? I think it's Stephan, you know, kind of a thing where you're just like, no, honey, where is she? Where is her body, Stephan? That's what we're after at this point.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So
I'm doing my best.
that's okay. So now that we know that you came from Jungyoung Parkway and you made a left on Town Loop, so you passed the McDonald's.
Yeah, that was when she said no to McDonald's the first time.
Okay. So you guys keep on going on Town Loop.
Yeah. But at that point, we still had a lot of time to kill. Very early.
So what did you guys do?
Drove towards the school, made a U-turn, came back, tried to do the McDonald's thing again. She didn't want it.
So where did you, one more time, where did you do the U-turn at?
It probably was right by the church because it was still way too early for school.
Now, here's the thing where the school thing is biting him in the butt, because it's like, yeah, I mean, you left so early, right? And if she was alive, if none of this was going on, like, why? Why did you leave that early? No, we tried to do the McDonald's thing again. And then you hear him also, well, probably he can't give these normal answers. A normal thing, and I hate using the word normal, I hate saying this is how it should go because everyone's different, but in a scenario like this, I'm pretending my phone's a little map thing right here, and they're asking me for the 13th time, and they show, where'd you do the U-turn? Like right here, right at the church. We turned around, came back. She threw a hissy fit, was going to get upset if I went through there because her little boyfriend was working at McDonald's. Something like that would sound more legit as to why she didn't want to go. But multiple times you've gone back and you yourself wanted to go, but you didn't because, like, it doesn't make sense. But of course it wouldn't, as I've said 100 times, because we know she wasn't around, in a sense, to make the decision about McDonald's, right? But this is, again, is where the cops, you know that they know at this point, right? That this dude is completely shady.
So it looked normal. It looked okay.
Okay, and then what did you do after you left the area?
I left to go to the local vape shop because I needed some more vape juice. They weren't quite open yet, so I ended up going back home. Hung out with Jen for a little while. Waited about an hour or so and then went back and checked the vape shop again. It was open, so I got what I needed there and came back home and hung out with Jen again for a while.
Do you remember what time you came home?
The first time was probably right around 10, close to it.
Okay, so now here's the thing. This is where the origins, the secondary origins of screwing himself, right? Number one, this damn vape shop. I went to the vape shop and I waited and did it. Now, I love when they call him out about the times of the vape shop because it makes zero sense. But again, this is a good example of investigative work, or even in your everyday life, of having to question somebody over and over and over and over and over, and you get a little bit of a different answer. And that's just human nature, right? I mean, this is just a specific case in that, you know, a child is missing, these things are going on. But that being said, listen, just pay attention, you know, what he just said, that little timeline, because on the surface level, oh, okay. But now let's get real nitty gritty about it. And when you get real nitty gritty with Stephan's story, it gets nitty gritty.
You said the first time that you hung out with Jen for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Was Jen here when you got here at 10? Okay.
I think so. She might have been at her blood appointment. Let me double check. I know she had a blood appointment at some point during the day.
It's okay. We don't have to ask her right now.
Sorry, everything's a blur.
So she might have been here, she might have not have been here
I
the first time.
believe she was here because she was sleeping in as much as she possibly could because she's been messed up with a new work schedule. So she had to be here because she didn't want to sleep in.
Okay.
I'll double check, but yeah, I believe she was here.
And then what time did you say you left again to the smoke shop?
Maybe after an hour or so, maybe 11 or so.
That part right there, was Jen here? Maybe so. How? What? You don't remember that? That part, again, is so angering, number one, frustrating, but so fascinating to listen to someone just shoveling it in or shoveling it on, you know, just deep and thick, right? You know the cops have to be like, this dude, like, what? You can't remember if she was home? That's so obvious. Let me text Jen and see. What? You know, and that's not going to be any help because she's looking to you for the answer. You know, everything that she was doing in the beginning was very much, it was giving what is not going to get me in trouble with STEPHAN. You know what I'm saying? Like those kind of answers. So I'm like, I don't think she would be of help. You know, this part right here, I'm just like, oh, I wonder if like the hair on the back of their necks was standing up while giving this interview.
Okay. And then what time did you get to the smoke shop?
It's maybe 10 minutes away, so not long after that. Stopped in and got some juice and
What's the name of the smoke shop?
East Smoke Broadway.
Okay.
It's just over off of John Young. It's not far from the school.
And then after the smoke shop, what did you do?
Came home, yeah.
Okay, for how long?
At least until maybe 12:30, 12:45-ish, something like that.
And then what'd you do after that?
Again, notice how his story, it constantly changes with the times, right? Oh, now it's maybe 12:30, 12:45. Now, I apologize. There's an airplane clearly going in the background of that clip there. Again, putting these clips up here like this, it just fascinates me from like the psychological standpoint of listening to someone trying to talk their way out of trouble, of trying to come up with an alibi, a timeline, everything. Because what also sends chills to my bone is knowing this whole time he's talking to them, he has the mental image in his mind of what Madeline looked like taking her last breath, of what her body felt like taking to the car, of how she looked past in the car, of what her body was like taking her out, of where he had left her, of what he did leading up to it. And he's in here able to do these things and lie and pretend that he's crying and talk about what a good girl she is. That is what haunts me with this case and others like it.
I had a couple errands to run over on 192. She was talking about making a BJ shopping list. She just wanted to make sure I was back in time for us to both go pick up. So I was visiting some card shops around the area on 192. I'm kind of a nerd, so we had a new trading card game release, and I was seeing what the situation was with it.
Do you remember what places you visited?
Yeah, Coliseum of Comics. Stopped by a couple Targets, and I was going to go to House Rules Games down by Oak and 192, but I didn't make it that far. I got a flat tire on the way.
Okay, one thing with this clip that I wanted to talk about is when he's like, I went home and she was like making a BJ's list and wanted me to get home and kind of like making the to-do list for the day or whatever. Okay, so think about a normal scenario that you're in of this didn't happen, but it's legitimate. Oh, I'm going to go home. We're going to run these errands. We're going to pick her up. But instead, he, in his mind, has to be panicking. Has to be. So while he's listening to Jen talk about, okay, we need to do this. We need to pick her up. He knows that's not going to happen. She ain't coming home. You know, shopping at BJ's, I'm trying to cover up a murder. You know what I'm saying? So that part right there, I'm like, oh my God, I can imagine the panic and anxiety. But then you also have to wonder if with people like him, is he experiencing the same panic and anxiety that we think we would go through if we were trying to cover something like this up, right? Because like, y'all, They would know instantly, right? I would be a blubbering, like I would literally get caught instantly, okay? I would be so full of panic, right? And like everything, there's no way. So even though he's messing up, he's relatively calm sounding. In fact, I would venture to say that Jen, if you've watched her interviews and things like that, she's visibly nervous. Now, mind you, as far as we know, she doesn't truly know what happened to Madeline, so you would expect a level of that out of her, out of the person who doesn't know or whatever. But nonetheless, he has this eerie calmness about him.
Do you remember where you got your flat tire?
It was on 192. I pulled into one of those plazas somewhere. It's been about 10 years since I switched out a tire, though, so I made a lot of rookie mistakes and ended up pinning my thumb between the frame and the jack. Yeah, I'm lucky it's not a lot worse than it could have been.
Okay, here we go. Now this one right here, so remember, if you've been following the kids, whatever, the tire changing, all that, this is another major thing that gets him caught up, right? Obviously, now he's in jail and whatnot, but at the time when they were figuring stuff out, this would be a major discrepancy that took place. Also, again, listen to how he's talking where he's like, I made a rookie mistake. Now he'll say this several times throughout, right? Talking about, I did this and I jammed my finger up and blah, 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 blah. Right now they're being like, oh, sorry, but wait till we get to later on in the video, whatever you want to call it, to their reaction to this, because he'll do these things to incite, like, number one, make an excuse up for things, but number two, a little bit of like the feel sorry for me thing. And while they're being kind of nice and cordial now, their tune changes all on the way.
Do you remember the name of the plaza by any chance?
I don't.
Do you remember like what stores were?
It was like right before you got to Oak, though, so it was one of those little strips.
Okay. And then
but I did not make it back in time because of that. I thankfully had the spare. I put that on and tried to get back in time, but caught every red light on the way. She ended up leaving out. I was about 10 minutes late on that.
Oh, golly jeepers, he just did miss that. It's not like he was trying to avoid that or anything. Now, another thing, too, that I was thinking about when I listened to this is when she's like, do you remember the name of the plaza? I can't remember this. And I'm thinking of like some plazas that I go to all the time, but that are like when I know the name of it. And he does say, oh, it's right before you get to here. Because like, there's one that I would have to be like, oh, well, I don't remember the name of it. Well, I shouldn't say that. I remember the name of it, but it's different, like versus when I was a kid kind of a thing. Again, he clearly goes to these places because he knows them enough to go to the card shops. So these little things like this, I don't really remember the name of this one. I don't really remember. Again, it's just like, honey, do you not think that they're going to figure all this stuff out? You know what I'm saying? Like, of course they're going to find out the name of the plaza. Of course they're going to figure out that, they're going to figure out your steps. So that's another part that gets to me. But again, I'm kind of answering my own question here. It's like, well, he wasn't planning on doing this in this moment. Like, he's making it up as he goes, right? I would hope and think that someone who pre-planned something like this way out would account better for their memory. Not that I'm advocating for that, but it's just kind of psychologically interesting and perplexing to see how this is playing out with him and his memory.
So I called her and let her know what happened. Apologized profusely because I promised I'd be there with her to go pick her up. Just sat and waited. After that, she had already gone to get her, so I just sat and waited and hung out, and straightened up the house a little bit.
That part where he says, I just sat and waited. Of course he did, because he knows what's getting ready to pop off. He was preparing. He cleaned the house. He knew, here we go. It's all getting ready to pop off, right? So it's like I can almost see him at the house doing his little thing, getting ready. Oh, God, I'm sorry, Jen. I couldn't make it out. All this happened, that happened. He knew what was getting ready to take place, okay? That part creeps me out. Just that mental gymnastics that one would have to go through of, okay, life is now getting ready to completely change. Like it already did with the actions that he took, but like in his world, here we go. I've had this small window of time, but now here we are. It has to go public at this point.
I just forgot the phone, right? Is it normal for her to not have her phone?
Unfortunately, she's severely ADHD, as am I. So it is not uncommon at all, and in fact, very, very usual thing for her to forget things. She'd forget her head if it wasn't screwed on.
One thing that goes on here, well, let me say this two ways. Number one, I'm ADD, ADHD, whatever you call it. So I do the same type of stuff where like I could literally be doing the same thing at the gym, for example. I have a list that I have to keep at the door, and y'all, it's basic, okay? It's car keys, phone, earbuds, coffee, water bottle, watch, because I will get in the car and then be like, Paul, where's the phone? Okay, seriously. Now, mind you, I go to the gym way early, but what I'm trying to get at is not about my gym routine. I can understand one level of that. However, in this, he completely uses this to exploit the situation. Oh yeah, she forgets everything. You know, as well as with himself too. If you went by what he said, they all have all these crazy elements in this house that basically renders them all useless, right? So he's using this completely, oh yeah, she's very ADD, she's this, she's that, blah, 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 blah. You know, and it just makes you wonder what daily life was like in the household. You know, how much this was used against her, or if he used stuff like this against Jen, or for himself to get out of things. Because just like he said, oh, I had to do this with the car. You know, sorry, Jen couldn't make it. Oh, I left my phone at home. Oh, I did this. Oh, I did that. I'm sure that he has constructed, and he probably believes it, right? He has constructed this narrative over the years, over time, probably his whole life, of these excuses to get what he wants when he wants it.
This one's town center, but town loop.
We're just trying to figure out your direction of travel, right?
I'm so sorry. I'm so bad with that area over there, Hunters Creek.
You said you made a U-turn at the church to go see if she wanted McDonald's again, correct?
Yes.
Did you go anywhere else? Because I know you said you had time to kill.
Yeah.
Did you guys go anywhere else?
No, we didn't go anywhere else.
Is there a reason why you would be back on John Young Parkway?
When we tried to go back to McDonald's a second time, we would have made a left over there instead and just looped around again.
Okay, so get ready, because we're getting ready to get into them calling him out. Notice that last thing he said, we just snooped around again. He drops these little things along the way of, you know, that kind of thing. And they're getting ready to start just dropping bombs on him of, okay, well, why? You heard her say, was there a reason we would be on whatever? I don't think it's clicked with him yet of like, bro, video, hello, it's not your friend, right? Okay, it's not your friend. Okay, it's just, it is what it is, but one thing it ain't is his friend. Okay, let's keep going.
So,
Went back to McDonald's.
on Lincoln town loop.
Still time to kill. She still didn't want the McDonald's, but I did give her a raspberry and cheese Danish.
So did you go through the drive-thru? Did you go inside?
No, didn't go inside.
Where did you get the Danish from?
Oh, the Entenmann's that I brought from home. I gave her a couple of those to put in the car.
Okay.
So she wasn't without food totally.
I mean, my God. First of all, this whole thing of time to kill, these little things that he says are just, I mean, I'm being petty, but it just absolutely grates my nerves, the choice of words. This, again, the whole thing with McDonald's. Well, I gave her the raspberry thing. You know, everything is about this lie is so complicated, okay? Like, it's so complicated because it's not true. You know what I mean? It's like he's just making it up, jumping along the way. So almost like with this right here, this video is a perfect lesson if you wanted to teach yourself how to spit lies out, what not to do, okay? Because he's doing everything that you're just like, wait a minute. Why are we getting so complicated over McDonald's? Why do we keep just dropping nuggets when we feel, oh, we snooped around a little bit? And you're going to hear in a second of, oh, well, actually we didn't do. And it's like, we've been here for over an hour and you're just now saying that? Absolutely not, put the cuffs on him. You know what I mean?
On your phone, do you have Google Maps?
I do, but I wasn't mapsing it.
When you're giving her rides, does she sit in the front or the back?
She sits in the front. She likes to sit.
Okay, now these two things right here we're getting ready to get into too. Where was she sitting? How does she sit? We're gonna hear all this. And again, we know at this point that when they're looking at the video and stuff, remember when this came out, if you followed it, she was up front and we believe she was deceased at that point. Now, the whole Google Map things, again, the phone with this dude, I mean, thank God, right? It's not his friend evidence, because you can start to hear him like, oh, I wasn't Google mapping. I don't think him nor anybody, well, probably us, because we watch this stuff so we know to the degree. Look at the Alec Murdoch case where they were like, at this second the phone was opened, at this second the phone was in this direction, like crazy stuff that they know you're doing with your phone. The average person, especially if you don't watch true crime in these cases, I guess they have no idea that it's like, dude, they can literally tell what you're doing with your phone as if they were there just about. Okay, it's very scary, but obviously in situations like this it's great because it helps, catch these people that do this stuff.
Do you mind if I look at your maps real quick?
Yes.
Thanks.
And just to confirm also, you said, so the second...
Okay, real quick with that right there when she wants to see the thing. For me, my first thought that went through this is I was like, I'm not even there, and I can feel the tension, right? Like, you know he has to, because we know what's on his phone. He thinks he erased it or whatever, or hid it or whatever. We know at this point what's on the phone, right? So imagine if you're him with that kind of stuff out there, and the cop's like, let me see your phone. You have to give it to him, because if he was like, no, then that's not going to look good, right? So he had to be sweating bullets at this point.
Do you mind if I just take a picture of your history?
Yeah, that's fine.
And that time would have been, you said, around
8:20ish, 8:30, sometime between 8:20 and 8:40.
What time does she go into class?
She has to be there no later than 9:15. Doors open at 8.
Okay.
Doors open at 9, I think. And then school officially starts around 9:20 or 9:28, I think.
Okay.
So I got up.
And when you dropped her off, is that earlier than typical, later than typical, around the same time?
Earlier than typical.
Again, back to the time thing. I know I've said this, but it's like, okay, no later than 9:20 or doors open at 9. My God, right? It's like this whole thing that he's doing. Y'all left so early. And she was talking about, can we take a picture of your history? Again, he was like, oh my God. But in the very beginning of this clip where, now, again, obviously I've cut them up and whatnot, but the general... that level, that is a stress sound. That is not a, oh my God, I just hope we find her. That's a, oh God, y'all are really stressing me out. Because his life's on the line, right? He knows what he did. He knows what he did. I mean, his life is on the line in his world.
Besides the ADHD, is she diagnosed with anything else?
Yeah. She was tested a while back and had some symptoms of autism, so she's potentially on the spectrum there.
Okay.
She was officially diagnosed with it when she was younger, and then she was retested and said, well, she shows symptoms of being on the spectrum, but maybe not full-on autistic.
Again, the back and forth of diagnosis and whatnot. He strikes me as the type that probably has everyone in his circumference, like, so Jen, for example, especially, constantly like, you need to go get checked for this, you need to go get a diagnosis, you need to do this, because it only would benefit him and his exploitation, right? So if he can get everybody like on meds and on this and on that or whatever, and convince they have this and convince they have that, it only helps him to gain access and exploit. I mean, Jen's over here talking about, I've got this, I've got that, I have this, I have that. A lot of times these people like this is what they do. I'm sitting here thinking back now, I dated someone, no, it wasn't Matt. If you follow me, it wasn't him. But in the past, and they are no longer here, so, I feel confident in talking about this. This dude had me convinced. I had every single thing. He ended up being a absolute raging narcissist. But before all this, and this was many moons ago, right? Like before, I had age on my side to recognize stuff and experience and whatnot, but this reminds me of that, where I'm like, oh yeah, that's what, he wanted me to go get diagnosed for this, go get diagnosed for that. Oh, you got this. Oh, you got that. You name it. Because it was like just this way of doing stuff. And then specifically for me, I look back, I'm like, he probably had all that stuff, right? And he's like gaslighting me into it, right? But this is what STEPHAN strikes me as. And again, just continue with the stressful thing that he does. Oh my God.
I don't recall. You have to ask her if we went anywhere. I don't recall. I was so zonked out on Ativan at that point.
Okay.
It was a wreck. I don't.
And this would have been when?
I was so zoned out on Ativan. See how that... So this is where you can see, put it all together, what he was doing to poor little Madeline, right? So, again, he's got everyone in this household. I say he, I don't know, but this is just my guess, right? It's a plenty. Let's knock everybody out. Let's all stay knocked out. Let's all just remove ourselves from reality, right? Obviously, some not knowing her against their will. I'm speaking of Madeline. Now, possibly with Jen too, he had her on this and on that and whatnot. I was a wreck. I was like, on this. Now, of course, this is what I'm talking about also where it benefits him in this moment because he can sit here and be like, well, I was on Advent. I don't remember. My memory's so blurry. You see where I'm going?
I don't recall us going anywhere last night, but honestly, at that point, my brain was mush, and I was on so many tranquilizers to keep me stable. It's just...
You said Ativan?
Yeah.
Just stop. I don't know if we went anywhere last night. What? How would you not remember that? Okay, I was on so many tranquilizers. What is this, a pharmacy? I mean, literally. That's where I'm just like, my God, remember how, okay, well, if you haven't been watching or following it where the teacher's like talking about, she would come in, she'd be tired, talking to Madeline, tired and this and that, and I already said earlier where they mentioned that she did much better when he was away. There's no telling what this man was giving her. Okay, I mean, come on. My God, can you imagine? Especially as she was younger, right? Where she was just younger, he's probably giving her stuff, waking up and kind of being like, I don't know what happened. And it's like, you're too young to put two and two together or whatever. But you know something. Imagine that over the years. If you've seen the movie Blink Twice, I did a review on it on my channel. That's where this thought comes from. I don't want to give spoiler alerts, but essentially like these women being like, what, how did this happen? How did that happen? Where did this bruise come from? Kind of a thing. And then the truth comes out. I feel like on a certain level, that's what took place here.
Yeah.
Do you usually take that or?
Yeah, I have a prescription. I haven't needed it in a long time though, but...
What's that for?
Anxiety.
Okay.
I was having these rolling panic attacks and breaking down crying, and I just...
Oh, it got lost, sorry.
Oh, thank you. There you go. And,
rolling panic attacks, anxiety. Everyone in the house has anxiety, right? Now, I'm not trying to say that in a negative connotation because there could be legitimate people out there with these things, situations. I have anxiety myself. I got my own stuff going on, right? So it's like no shade, no tea kind of a thing on that. But it's the fact in this circumstance where I'm like, okay, so I have a prescription. I haven't needed it in a long time. Well, isn't that convenient, right? It's probably also behooves him to be diagnosed with this stuff and getting these medications so that he can give them to whoever, like Madeline in this case.
it was the only way I could get to sleep last night. And then again this afternoon. That's why I missed your calls. I'm sorry. So took an Ativan and conked out for a few hours.
So now it makes me wonder this, and some of you who have gone follow channels that do massive deep dives into this stuff, it makes me wonder, were he and Jen abusing this, or was he making her abuse stuff? Like, what was going on? I'm talking about like the Ativan stuff like that. Because when he was like, she wanted to take another nap, and she says she has anxiety, I'm like, okay, were they just like eating pills constantly? Like, what was the snapshot of that like between them in the house leading up like in times past?
Let's say at 15, around there. When you get over here, you make a U-turn, you go back to the McDonald's. But you said that she still doesn't want the McDonald's.
Still doesn't want it. She was just going to eat the Danishes that I had given her.
So you're going up here now, still northbound on Jonghyuk Parkway.
Mm-hmm.
You make a left at Town Center this time.
Town Center, then make a right onto,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
And then you drop her off around like...
Dropped her off around halfway up the road there.
Okay. So keep in mind, all of this is still northbound.
Okay.
Right? You're still northbound on Jonghyuk Parkway.
Northbound.
So why is your car seen going southbound at 8:10?
Just slap the cuffs on him. That's what I'm talking about right here. These are the moments right here. And I'm like, I love this. Go on, detectives. So here's the thing. Here's where they start dropping this. You know he had to clean his britches after this right here. Call it. Done. Done, called, he's finished. And he leads them up to, oh, I did this at this time, and this at this time, and this at this time. But once they can track that, it's all blown out of the water. It's not going to work.
I'll show you what location it is. McDonald's is over here.
Mm-hmm.
At 8:10, your car is seen going southbound at this intersection. So meaning going toward Kissimmee.
Mm-hmm. I had forgotten something. I had forgotten my gate clicker. I'm sorry. I forgot. I had gone back to the house real quick after we left because I forgot my gate clicker.
Lock him up. Right then and there. Now I know I'm being dramatic and I'm joking, not joking, but I mean I'm being dramatic. And obviously he is locked up at this point. This is the part right here that when you listen to these kind of interviews, you know, specifically with him, obviously this time, but in other times, things that we've watched when we follow these cases, that right there where he's like, oh, I forgot it. I left my gate clicker. And we'll hear him talk more about this. This right here as a detective, I'm sure they had to be like, massive red flag, okay? That is such an important piece of information that if you were legitimately retracing your steps, you would 100% remember, oh yeah, I went back to the house. So now think about this. How many times this man in this story has backtracked things. He backtracked McDonald's, he backtracked the vape store, he backtracked the house. Everything he's doubled up on. Probably, I mean, number one, he's just making up as he goes. Like this right here, he had to just come up with something, right? Like, oh God, okay, you got me. Okay, so we did this. You know, but again, this is why when detectives do this kind of stuff, and again, I'm not trying to say that there's some scenarios that it could be legitimate, right? And it's just so bizarre, but 9 out of 10 times, especially this with other evidence and whatnot, it ain't bizarre, it ain't a coincidence, it's what it looks like. He guilty, okay?
I actually had to go through the front gate and use my parking pass to grab my clicker. So it was the wrong time. I'm sorry. Like I said, I was guesstimating these times. I'm not a morning person.
Okay.
So yes, we'd gone out.
How far did you get before you came back down? When you realized you forgot your clicker?
Nearly all the way to the school.
Again, I'm not a morning person. Can't roll my damn eyes. I'm definitely putting that. That's the thumbnail. If you're watching this, you probably already saw it. Okay, that's the damn thumbnail right there. I'm not a morning person. And again, a lot of people could say that, but it's like, dude, no. What makes me, I would love to know just all the little, if you could be a fly in the wall in this scenario, see how the posture of the detectives is. What, to me, I envision STEPHAN like this, like just kind of folded up into himself during the interview. It's just like a little weak, you know, ant. You know what I'm saying? And the detectives, I just feel like would be shifting. So I'm like, okay, you forgot. Okay. You know, like almost like that. Okay. Now things are starting to make sense. We have what happened to her. We just have to figure it out. What happened to her is sitting here in this car and we're trying, or wherever they're at, and we're trying to figure out, you know, what he did to her.
And then we turned around. We had plenty of time to kill, so it was time to go back. I rushed back, got the clicker, and that's when I came back here this way.
So you guys came back here to get your clicker?
Correct.
So when we look at the cameras in the front, it's going to show you coming back in
Correct.
here with her in the car?
Yes, with her in the passenger seat,
Okay.
yes.
Now, you can hear her. So you came back here to get your clicker. Now, in a minute, they'll call it out like, well, why'd you even have to do that? You know, again, time to kill. I mean, come on. But again, time, it's so fascinating how when something like this goes down and you are dissecting every second, every minute of the day, and it's his enemy because we know what he was doing during this time. He's getting rid of evidence. He's getting rid of her. He's covering up his crime as best as he can, but he has to account for that. And he can't do it.
I know it sounds like we're asking you stupid questions, okay? We just want to verify
okay.
the times.
I'm sorry I'm not being more help. I'm not a morning person. I was half asleep as it was. I'm trying.
The clickers to get where?
Into our neighborhood.
Okay, and you forgot the clicker where?
I had forgotten the clicker here.
So how did you get in?
Able to use my parking sticker for them to scan to let me through.
Again, I'm sorry, I'm not a morning person. I'm trying to be helpful. I'm trying to be this, and they're breaking it down, because one thing that's also interesting with this is when you listen to the detectives, somebody who's just trying to sift through the truth and whatnot is watching how they work. They're taking the information, like repeating it back. And obviously, if you're trying to cover up a massive crime like this, you're going to have some paranoia. You're going to have something going on, right? I mean, you're trying to save your butt from getting in trouble. So it doesn't, I guess it doesn't sound bizarre to him coming out of his mouth the first time, but when they repeat it back and they're going through this, like, okay, so we're going to see this and we're going to see that on camera and whatnot. And some of it, it's like the blend of truth. So that's what also makes this, stuff fascinating. I think when you look at some of our different interests in true crime and whatnot, and one of them for me is seeing how this stuff plays out, how it works, how the human brain deciphers what's real, what's not real, what's truth, what's not truth, and how you get to that. The I don't know a better way to say it, like the mechanisms, the processes that these detectives have for sifting through all this and getting the kernels out and realizing, like, okay, here's a vein that has something in it. We're gonna go with this and see where it takes us.
Okay. So could you not have done that after you dropped her off?
I could have, but I also like to come back in from the back gate a lot of the times, and I didn't know if I would be back right away. And sometimes they're busy up front, so it's better not to wait in a line.
That right there, the question of the century: could you not have done this later? Well, no, I they might be busy. It's they might be busy up there, whatever. That's where I'm just like, dude, listen to yourself. Again, not that I'm advocating for this, the only thing he should be worried about at this point, and which thank God he didn't, or whatever, thank God it played out the way it did, how can I get out of this scenario and hitting the road and running? Because right here, they know you're guilty, right? They know you did something. No regular person lies this much and becomes this bad at it. He should have literally just sat down and used all this time that he's trying to account for when he got home and made stuff up and been like, I did this. And I think he tried to it to a certain degree, but I think he probably just wasn't with it enough, right? It was too much for him to cover, because you can't make up the time that he's trying to make up. There's too many things, and you're trying to say, I went and dropped her off and ran a couple errands and came back. It's like, there's way too much time there. Way too much time. You were the last person with her alive in the car. I'm sorry, she wasn't alive in the car, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you were the last person seen with her. This time they didn't know that, at the beginning or whatever, that she was deceased until very soon thereafter. But you can't cover it up. There's really nothing you can say.
What time is security usually there at the front gate?
They were there when I came through. He scanned my ticket.
So would it have not just made more sense to drop her off and come back since security's already there?
I don't know if it made more sense. It's just what I did.
Okay.
I mean, there's not much else to say at this point. Wouldn't it have made more sense to do this? I don't know. It's just what I did. Literally in my mind, I'm thinking that's what I would have said at this point. I don't know. It's just what I did, right? I mean, and there are some things that are like that, right? That you can just happen. It's just what I did. It might not make much sense. Because one thing that I think of too is, like, sometimes it depends on where I'm going. This is a good example right here. So if you follow me, I go to a gym in a certain town or whatever. Well, there's two locations of this gym at Planet Fitness. A lot of you probably go there. There's one location that if it's during the daytime, it's going to be crazy. I won't go. So I'll go to one that literally is 40 minutes away. And any normal person is like, why do you drive that far? And I'm like, it ends up saving time. And the drive is so beautiful to this town. So pretend something like this popped off. A detective would be like, why'd you went to Hillsboro? It wouldn't make sense, right? To any normal person, like, what? Why would you do that? And it's like, well, because it's a pretty drive and I actually save time going there because not many people are at that location. Whereas the one in this other place is off the hook. It's, only saves 15-minute driving time. So like, when these little things like here pop off, I think of things like that and I'm like, oh yeah, that would be totally suspicious to a detective being like, why do you go so far out of your way to go to the gym? Like, really? Like that doesn't make sense. Now, granted, we know why STEPHAN went out of his way to do all these things and whatnot. I mean, that much is clear at this point. But He strikes me as the type person, when you have a secret life the way he did, when you're doing the things that he was doing to Madeline and whatever else he had going on with the internet and whatnot, he was always going to be stealing time away at things. I'm going to go to the store. Oh, well, this happened. It took me longer, because he has this totally, horrifying, monstrous life behind closed doors or whatever. So if he's like staying with Jen, he's going to have to always be lying. Probably there's no telling how much of his day was a lie to people around him. He probably was constantly making things up to where it was no big deal to him to lie about the sky being blue. Like, just basic stuff this man was probably lying about all day, every day.
Would she say she's usually like a happy, go lucky girl?
Very happy. She brings a lot of joy. She's a very good girl. It definitely doesn't feel the same around here if she's not here.
This is the part right here. It's like he doesn't get to say that about her. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like he doesn't get to say that. Again, he hasn't been convicted at this point, but I mean, come on, right? That, it just feels like, oh, she doesn't feel the same around here without her. I bet so, okay? She was a happy-go-lucky girl. Really, I'm sure she was even better when you weren't around. This is the part when you hear perpetrators, defendants, whatever you would call them, talk about their victims in this way, like, with rose-tinted glasses or whatever, and I'm like, no, you don't get that at all, right? You took their life. You don't get to talk about stuff like that.
She was so happy, too. She was looking forward to my visit here. She was looking forward to us all being together. She was just happy. She was just very happy.
She was looking forward to my visit. Can't roll my damn eyes hard enough. We already know through the evidence I've said 100 times in this video of the, her grades got better, her demeanor, all this type of stuff. This guy was a monster who brought a black cloud around with him. Even those who know him, his parents, they don't have anything good to say about this man, right? And then you see, just look at Jen's behavior around him. Now, I don't know Jen personally. I don't know her before she started going out with this man. None of that stuff. She's like a nervous train wreck around this man, right? This is what people like him do. They have everyone in absolute shambles around them.
So you'd say you guys have a pretty good relationship?
Yeah, definitely have a very strong bond. And she goes to when gets in a fight with her and she needs someone to comfort her, and like I'm that person for her,
You already know what I'm going to say. A strong bond. I'm that person for her. I mean, could anyone actually, was Jen actually corroborating this? You know what I'm saying? Was she actually saying these same things too? I mean, my God, I haven't heard that in anything yet. This is crazy. This is crazy. The things that he's saying, I'm just like, seriously? It's almost like he's getting off on this right here. Now, of course he's going to want to say, oh, she loved me, she did that. You know what I'm saying? Of course he's going to want to say that. Maybe what he was thinking is her body would never be found, and that they would just go on oh, she just disappeared into thin air. But even on that note, it's like, you didn't hide the body that well. I mean, what, really? You really thought you were going to get away with this, and then on top of it, saying all these things. I can only imagine what, I've said it 100 times in this video, I'll say it 100 times more, what the energy was like in the household just between Jen, STEPHAN, and Madeline. At home, what that energy was like. I can't fathom there was anything good or happy about it.
Very loving, This girl knows nothing but love here in this house. She hardly ever hears the word no. Double-edged sword, that is.
That right there, she knows nothing but love. Seriously? And then you heard that thing that he said. She's never heard the word no. Double-edged sword, that is. Same thing as earlier, I forget even right now off the top of my head, when he was talking about something with her at home. Again, I can hear him stomping around, not stomping around, but puffing his chest out, whatever, talking about how Jen raises her, this, that, and the other, blah, 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 blah. And remember, he has this sick relationship with Madeline where he is exploiting her. Shouldn't even call it a relationship, but you know what I'm saying, in his mind, right? Not in Madeline's. But he's doing these things to her. He is abusing her. He is exploiting her. But at the same time, this manipulation that has to go on. Also where he has to keep people like Jen and Madeline as well to control everything around him for fear of like getting, what happened right here of like, oh my God, I'm going to get called. So this whole dynamic he's spilling out here, it's bone chilling.
Though apparently she just made student of the week.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, so we're very proud of her. And she's doing singing, choir, and she's sounding just amazing. She sang for me last night, and I immediately wanted to show her the movie Sister Act because of the choir singing. It was so pretty. It reminded me.
I mean, is he lying about this? Like, did that really happen? Like in the window of time where they were sent upstairs to go to bed, whatever happened, because if it's legitimate where it's like, okay, they were up there by like 11 or midnight or whatever it was, there's a small window of time for whatever he did to her and took her life and then, was prepping stuff or whatever to get her body out of the house. So this right here, these little bizarre details where I'm like, my God, he's laying it on thick.
The other detective mentioned that you did not have your phone yesterday?
Correct.
Tell me about that.
I left my phone at home in the morning too. I was so busy riding her to the door on time that I left my phone. She left her phone. We both left our phones.
Did you have your phone when you went to the smoke shop?
Not the first time after I dropped her off. I was still without it. I got my phone and went back to the smoke shop later when I got home.
And then I also noticed, I was checking your call history. I noticed that you don't have anything before this morning. Is that unusual on your phone?
No, it's a new phone. Stupid. I went to do an update yesterday morning, and I don't know what the fuck. Pardon me. I don't know what the heck I did, but somehow during the massive OS update, I managed to factory reset my phone and lose all of my contacts, all my information.
What time was that? Do you remember?
Sometime.
And again, this is a huge thing. He's probably thinking, I'm going to delete the phone and get rid of the evidence and the contacts and all this. Dude, that's not how phones work, okay? That's the thing. They can go way back on this. I mean, if you go back and look at like the origins of stuff of like, remember the Casey Anthony thing, and it wasn't on her phone, but it was on the home computer about the searches for, I can't remember the name of the substance or whatever, but that substance or whatever that makes you pass out or whatever. The different searches they did on the home computer. I mean, that was how long ago? So nowadays, and again, if you follow true crime and it's like, please, your phone stuff is everywhere, okay? So the fact that he thought he could do a factory reset, now again, the detectives, like this has to be one of those moments that chills go over you of, and the way he tried to play off the F-bomb, like, so pardon my language, please, honey, we're way past that, okay? That was for show. He's trying to make it seem like he was really upset over that. And I'm sure, when they were doing it, when he was talking about this, I envisioned him and Jen at home, and him going through the motions of like, what happened, Jen, what did I do on my phone? I guess I factory reset it. Golly jeepers, playing it up, and then Jen apparently just laps this stuff up. Oh no, he factory reset it without questioning it, right? Because probably in her situation and her relationship with him and all that, you can't question him because it leads to, he's probably trained her. There's going to be gaslighting and drama if you so much as question one thing. So probably in her world, if she were to say, why did you do that? Oh God, here we go down this whole tangent. Remember, the people like this, when you deal with them, and even on the realm of like, just in relationships, friendships, work, whatever it is, when you're dealing with these, and again, I don't know if he's truly a narcissist, a sociopath, or whatever he's got going on, but something like that. When you deal with these people, they are exhausting. They will suck the life out of you over a basic question, okay? They will turn that into a weekend-long debacle because they have nothing else going on and nothing else of value except this kind of BS. So I'm sure he had trained Jen and anyone else for that matter around him to be like, oh God, just let him do it. Just let him do what he's gonna do. It's easier to let him do what he's going to do. You know what I mean? Not really do what he's going to do, you know what I'm saying? But like just to avoid the complication or whatever. And there's probably a certain level of just, blind, what do you call it when you stick your head in the sand? I think a large part of that was going on with her.
In the meantime, while we're waiting for all this to get sorted out, I am going to hold on to your phone, okay? I'll give it back to you when we're done.
Okay.
Okay? Do you have any questions for us?
How long are you gonna need my phone? That's
I'm not sure. I'm waiting for my supervisor to call me.
my dad. It's just my dad's using that to get a hold of me and get updates.
They can call Jen's phone.
Okay.
Did the other detective give you his business card?
Now, you know, sir, she shut him down real quick. It's okay. He can call Jen's phone. Okay. You know, he's cooked right now. He knows. You know what? He knows. I'm talking britches changing. It's done, okay? If you were him in this scenario, after that line of questioning, and they're going to keep your cell phone, oh, please. 100% done. Your goose is cooked.
And then I know you were about to head somewhere. If you can just hang tight and refrain from going back in your car, please.
Oh, yeah, that's fine. I was actually going to move it over a spot.
No, just leave it here. It's fine. Thank you.
Again, though. And notice him right there. Okay, we don't want you to move the car. Oh, that's okay. I was just going to move it over one spot. Anything to get back in that car one more time. Anything to get in there. And I'm sure he's the type dude that doesn't like a female telling him what to do in that way. You know what I'm saying? Like that power struggle. I can almost assure, like that just seems like, he seems like that type dude. The power part of it, whatever. Whatever he was wanting to do last time in that car, whether it was get evidence, whatever that was. Or he could have been like, I'm going to haul it down the road. Where you're about to see a damn O.J. Simpson level police chase going down the road, okay? Because that's basically his only option.
Phone to FaceTime with her. Sometimes FaceTiming them both together on one of the phones.
Okay. And then yet you said that yesterday you accidentally factory reset your phone, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember what time that was?
No, it was sometime in the morning. I had been pushing off doing an update for a while.
Was that before or after you went to the smoke shop?
Before? I'm not sure. I'm not a morning person.
Again, hands down, that's the name of the damn thumbnail. I've said it 100 times. I'll say it 100 more, I guess, because they'll probably keep saying it. Again, this right here. Do you remember when you did that? You factory reset. Pretend that you just did that. You would just have to think about it for a second. Like, God, when did I do that update? Yeah, it was before we went and did this. But this right here, he's trying to buy time because he's almost like, what do I need to say? That's what he's thinking, right? And they know better. They know better. But here's the thing. He tried to make it off like it was an accident. So, you know how your phone does these updates? Okay, I'm one of those people who I put it off to the very last second where it's like the phone's like, look, we're going to just, crumble up and die over here, okay? Like, we've got to do the update, right? But for me, because I'm so old school, I guess, from like, well, if you press the update thing, it's going to change everything in your phone. Which it does, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to lose stuff or whatever. So it's like he's using that here. But obviously we know he really did do the factory update, or whatever, reset, whatever you call it, to, I guess, just think to get back to the standard operating procedure with the phone. So, obviously it blew up in his face.
I don't know. I don't think I went anywhere specific. I was just driving probably in the direction of home. But I don't remember stopping anywhere specifically.
And you were there for 5 to 10 minutes?
Roundabout, I think.
Okay, so like let's say you drop her off at 8:40. We don't see your car coming back south until 10 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you doing between 8:40 and 10 o'clock?
Cruising around a little bit.
Okay, but I asked you earlier, like what you were doing, and you said you were there for like 5 or 10 minutes, and then you came back home.
Yeah, well, I went to the smoke shop, like I said.
Again, there ain't nothing this man can say. They've got him. There is a huge chunk of time. The fact of the matter is, you killed her overnight. You left the house as soon as you could in the morning, way before normal, to avoid whatever was going on. Jen had no inkling to say goodbye to her daughter or whatever. So whisk her body out the door, go do whatever he did, dispose the body, to get rid of the book bag or whatever, all the stuff he did, leave the phones at home, and then come back. You can't make this stuff up. You can't make it up. There's too many cameras. There's too much evidence, right? And this is where he's going to get cooked. If he survives to trial, okay, and they come up with the evidence, which I think is going to be just, there ain't no question in it, right? I mean, from what the little bit we've seen come out, I mean, come on, right? Like, what do you say, okay? It's just, she died in a room with you. How? Okay. Well, they've already talked about that. So if it does make it to that point, I mean, he's cooked. There ain't, And again, you already know, okay? These charges right here, I'm legit shocked that the man is still alive even in county jail waiting on trial. Okay, these channels, these dudes like, 23-1, these people have like done all this time, whatever, and they talk about like, this is what happens and that's what happens. There are people waiting on this man. This is the kind of crime that the deputies or the correctional, whatever, oh honey, they're turning a blind eye. They're gonna put him where he needs to be put. Okay, so business is handled. Prison justice will be carried out. Surely he knows this at this point, right? I mean, come on.
But I may have been meandering around the area, but I made my way home.
Okay, but I'm asking you earlier, right? And even like the first time we talked to you, you're not telling us that you're like, just cruising the area, like you're coming home. So I need to be able to explain to my supervisors why there's such a time gap.
Okay, one thing I think is interesting is when she says this thing at the end, and I don't know if it's true or if it's like a tactic. I need to be able to explain to my supervisors, because me listening to it, it almost to me is like allowing the space for, I'm not totally the bad guy putting the question on you. It's my supervisor who needs to know this. But they're going to want to know why this isn't here. Like why is this time gap here? You see what I'm saying? Where it's just better than, I'm the authority. I need to know. You tell me. It's more like, I'm just, carrying your information over here. So we need to know, like, why is this? Because I have to explain it to somebody, right? Now, again, she just calls it out. We asked you this before. Now you're meandering. This is, again, his back is against the wall. He's caught in a lie. Not caught yet with what's taken place, right? Because they haven't, at this time, remember, they haven't found the body and stuff. But there's nowhere you can go. There's absolutely zero reasons this investigation would ever move past him after listening to these interviews. There's no reason for it to. You can't clear him. He's clearly making stuff up and omitting things along the way. And once they start seeing the evidence show this, I mean, obviously we know at this point, very quickly this falls apart.
I mean, I don't know what to say. It was just a normal day. I didn't have anything important to do. The smoke shop was supposed to open soon, so I made my way over there. Wasn't any particular rush, though.
Okay, but can you help me explain to them? Because I don't know the explanation or the answer to this question, okay? So can you help me explain to them why there's such a delay in the time?
No. Can't explain it. I wasn't going anywhere in particular. Wasn't doing anything in particular. Just making my way to the smoke shop. Waited for them to open. They did not open. And then I left.
I mean, literally. At this point, I would have been admitted to like affairs. You know what I'm saying? Like something, you know what? Actually, I was pulled off smoking crack. Sorry, I didn't want to tell anybody. But that's what I was doing. So sorry about that. I didn't want to, admit to that, but here we go. Now we're about to hear where they break it down like more common sense questions about, if you said you didn't want to wait here, then why didn't you with the things at the time the vape shop opens and all that kind of stuff. So again, at this point, he's floundering. There's really nothing you can say. It's almost like, just let me go, because again, he is caught in a lie. He has painted himself into a corner, and that's what's so frustrating, but also like, how do you say it? Like satisfying to hear them, watch them, or what I'm saying? See the process of them painting him in the corner, making his world smaller and smaller to where there's nowhere to go.
Where did you go from there?
From the smoke shop, I went home.
Okay, the smoke shop is like 10 minutes from here, right?
15, 20-ish, 15, 20-ish, something like that.
Earlier you told us it was 10 minutes.
Time is not a strong suit of mine. I'm guesstimating here.
I understand, but I have to be able to explain, where you were for an hour and 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Time's not a strong suit of mine. Again, notice this tactic that he uses. Okay, it's like 10 minutes from here. Well, 15 or 20, but you told us 10 earlier. And again, I get it. When you're in this moment right here, you're not able to sit here and think and do this. Like, I'm coming from his perspective. You can't think. You can't do that. You're making it up on the fly there. Again, they're making your world so small, so the pressure's on. His heart rate's probably up. He's probably freaking out. He's probably just saying whatever comes to his mind. And now they're really putting the pressure on him, because at a certain point, it's just like, dude, this is becoming too obvious. There's an hour and 20 minutes missing. Why? And he can't explain it, and neither can they.
And right now, I can't explain that.
Okay. Smoke shop was supposed to open close to 10. I waited. They did not open. And I came home.
Okay.
What time specifically was it supposed to open?
10 o'clock is when it's supposed to open.
So why'd you go at 8:40?
Like I said, I didn't go exactly at 8:40. I went to the smoke shop after I dropped her off.
Again, this part right here, this is where it's like, dude, just tell them what county jail will take you to. These are just the common sense questions. I mean, and they've been thinking this all along the way, like while they've been gathering this info, and it's just like in doing their thing to trace the steps probably and all that to come at these interviews with this knowledge. If it doesn't open until 10, why are you there at 8:40? Oh, well, I didn't go till after that. Well, it only takes, let's do your time, 20 minutes. Why would you show up an hour early and think they would be open? We'll hear them ask him this. He can't say anything about it. There's nothing you can say, right? Because he's lying, right? There's nothing to say about it. Again, this is a very satisfying part of true crime to me, when we listen to someone who's done a horrible act like this. And there has to be some kind of like psychology that goes on mentally with us, where it's almost like we're sitting here like, he might get away with it, but oh yeah, officer, say this. And then they say it like you're watching them solve the case in the moment. I don't know what that's called. Obviously, it's satisfying in justice's name, right? But like that part of it where you're watching the process happen, I find it very satisfying, and obviously, and for good reasons, because, for what he did, he's behind bars for it, that kind of thing.
But even if it was 9 o'clock, that still would have been an hour before they're supposed to open.
Mm-hmm.
So why would you think it would be open?
I didn't think it would be open. I was hoping I would get there early enough and wait for it to open.
So you would have waited an hour for it to be open?
I did not wait an hour. I got there maybe 20 minutes before it opened, 15 minutes before it opened, and just sat and waited.
Okay, you heard all the lies in there. He calls him out. Even if it was 9 o'clock, you got there. Why would you think they'd be open an hour? I didn't think they'd be open. But also this right here. If you're willing, and they'll say this, if you're willing to wait, then why didn't you wait? You know what I'm saying? Oh, well, it was more like this, 20 minutes before. Well, then where were you before? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the thing that just blows my mind, where, again, he's in the middle of so many lies, he can't keep up with it. And they've given him all this rope. I mean, just miles of it, right? And they started slowly pulling it back in, right? And now he's getting ready to be there with a noose on his neck, because there's just, at the end of the day, buddy, you just have to say, I can't account for that time, and I can't tell you what I was doing. Period. End of story.
But then you're seen coming at 10 a.m. when it's supposed to open, already coming down.
Leaving, because it was supposed to open at 10 a.m. I waited few minutes after 10, they were not opening, and that's when I left.
You did not wait a few minutes after 10.
What do you mean?
At 10 a.m., you were seen coming down southbound on Jongyang Parkway at the intersection of Jongyang Parkway.
At 10 a.m., I was still in front of that shop waiting to see if they were going to turn on the open sign.
Okay, but if you dropped at 8:40 and you said you only waited for a couple minutes at the smoke shop, why would you still be there at 10?
I waited to see if it would open, and they did not open.
At this point, what's that whole thing about who's on first? That's what this is. Okay, literally that's what this is. He's just walking them in circles, and they know this. They're probably sitting here with a piece of paper and showing him at 8:40, then why? Well, I was going to do this, but you didn't. So but I was doing this. No, you weren't. It's so frustrating. And I absolutely love them coming at him in this way of like just calling it out. But why did you do this? Why? And you can hear the frustration in his voice, right? I mean, he's getting frustrated too, you know, as anybody would, right? Now, side note, when I'm sitting here talking, and I forget this, you know, when I'm like this or whatever, to me, right now, as I'm recording this, like, y'all are sitting in front of me, okay? Like, we're all watching this together, and I'm like, listen to this, listen to this. It's so fun. I just forget that it's a camera right now or whatever. So that's why I get all up in it and start pointing and stuff. I get excited over the parts, and I'm like, listen to this, y'all. And in fact, let's go to the next clip.
We got that part, but you said you were there for a couple of minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you said you were there after, a couple minutes after 10. So that's...
It doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense.
I apologize for that. I'm trying to help you out the best that I can, but
Right, so like...
Again, we're just at an impasse. There's nothing to be said. It's like you either need to arrest something, right? Because he cannot admit it because there's well, obviously we know why, right? We know what was really going on. But I just, with these kind of things right here, I just wonder with the cops, and I guess that all depends on the information they have at that point. Because if they had enough, they could arrest. Almost like the Sarah Boone thing, where it's like they already knew they were going to probably arrest her. They were just getting all the information out of her. At this point in the game, they still don't have all that there, right? But they know. Without a doubt. They're probably like, well, let's see what he says to some of these answers. Let's see if he can answer them. Well, clearly he can't, right? So it's like you're having to let somebody go that's just 100% like, yeah, I can't. I disappeared for an hour. Sorry.
If you drop her off around 8:40, let's say, give or take 10 minutes, you make it to the shop around 9, the smoke shop, and you sit there and wait for a couple minutes for it to open. You said you waited for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, right? Mm-hmm. Does it make sense that you're still there at 10 o'clock?
I was there at 10 o'clock.
Okay, so what did you do before that?
I dropped her off, and I made my way over. Not a direct route, but I made my way over there.
Here we go. Finally, said I made my way. It's almost like Sarah Boone's talking about George. He was out of sorts. That phrase, made my way. Not a direct route. And it's like, oh, okay, now here we go. So what is not a direct route, Stephan?
Did you stop anywhere on your way to the smoke shop?
I don't think so.
Do you have problems with your memory that you can't recall what you did?
Yes, I'm extremely ADHD. I'm sorry. So just details start to get fuzzy after a while. Even the times I'm giving you are my best guesstimates here. I didn't have my phone with me at the time, so I wasn't aware of exactly what time.
There's no time on your car?
Transpiring. There probably is, but it's not my car. It's my parents' car.
It's his parents' car. That's why. That part right there, do you have issues with your memory? I mean, he can't remember if he went somewhere or not. This is where, again, they have to kind of be gentle because if they can't put the cuffs on him yet, they need to make sure that nothing, you know what I'm saying, like goes down south. But this part right here, he's done. Okay, this part right here, it would be so hard as a detective to just keep it, you know. And you can tell, I mean, obviously they're putting the pressure on him. I mean, because none of his answers make sense. And then I'm really ADHD or ADD, whatever he said. I'm sorry. This is a whole other thing. This is I was hiding the body level. This is an ADD, right?
How certain are you that you were outside of the smoke shop at 10 a.m.?
90% sure.
What makes you think that you were there at 10?
I saw lights on inside the place. It looked like they were coming to life in there. Mm-hmm. So it looked like they were about to open. Mm-hmm. And I was waiting to see if they were going to turn on the open.
Do you remember if there was anybody inside?
I couldn't see inside from the outside. But after I came home and then went back to the smoke shop again later, when they definitely were open, I stopped in and got my vape juice finally. I don't remember the name of the guy working there, but he was like a skinny guy.
Okay, so we're pretending we're the detectives right now. We're pretend detectives right now, okay, in Sarah Boone's world. And again, you'll hear them ask the question, but it's like, if you were gonna wait that whole time, and there's lights coming on, there's this and that, why in God's name would you leave? You've waited this whole time to do whatever, meandered your way, done this, done that, whatever he's claiming to do. Why? Why would you turn around and leave there? You know, oh, I don't remember the guy's name, which, I mean, that part makes sense. You know what I'm saying? It's such a poor lie that he manufactured for this, and it painted him in a corner. There's just nothing else you can say about it.
Short, skinny guy.
When you came back for the fob, did she go inside with you?
No, she was in the car still. She was asleep.
Where in the car?
Passenger side.
The front seat.
Correct.
Okay. Did she at any point go in the back of the vehicle, like in the back seat?
No.
So she was in the front the whole time?
Mm-hmm.
Awake or asleep?
She was asleep.
Okay.
She was confident. We had gotten up.
How was she positioned in the front seat?
Leaned back in the seat, just kind of conked out napping.
Now, this is the heartbreaking part, because obviously once they go back into the video and they, you know, we know what we know now and whatever, you know, they figure out she was, you know, deceased in the car. She's in one image, she's not in the next, whatever. You know, they can kind of piece the timeline together. So here you can tell they're extracting this information from him, trying to get it out of him. And again, when you're the detective and you're seeing this from their vantage point, that dynamic of it would be so obviously heartbreaking, but just frustrating, because almost like in this term, like some, and I'm not even talking Jim, but maybe Jim, but some of the, you know, other family members or people who actually cared about Madeline, you know, they might not be privy to everything. So they're, she's going to come home, she's going to do this. Well, the detectives are over there and they're pointing all the little pieces, or piecing all the puzzle pieces together. And they probably know at this point, yeah, we're looking for a body at this point, right? Because you can, no, like, she wasn't abducted. She didn't run away. The boyfriend can't account for anything, and his story is super sketchy, okay? Now, obviously, once they find the evidence on the phone, this, that, and the other, it gets even worse, right? But that knowledge of, like, I guess one thing that I think of as being the detective of, oh my God, we're gonna have to tell the family at some point that she's not coming home. You know, this girl who just turned 13 years old, you know, is not happening. But having to, you know, hold that information in or whatever, that would be really, really difficult to me, or mentally, you know, taxing and traumatizing.
Where was her head in relation to the seat?
Against the seat, I think. Against it. Just.
Was the seat leaning back, or?
The seat was leaning back. Yeah, she had leaned the seat back so that she could recline and.
Okay. And then I need you to try to, you know, refresh your memory. When you got the flat tire on 192, what could you see around you?
It's 192. It all looks the same. I'm so sorry, I'm drawing a blank as any specific businesses or names.
Now, first of all, it's also heartbreaking when they're talking about the body position in the car and whatnot, because he's describing her, you know, her remains, basically, her deceased body. Now, this part right here of what could you see around you? What do you remember seeing? Now, again, let's look at it from two perspectives. Somebody has randomly asked you to recount something that you've seen around this area. And this, I'm drawing a blank. I don't know. You would be able to say nothing but a field. You know, nothing but this. He can't say because he's lying. We know he's lying about where the thing was, right? But that part right there where he can't even cough up the answer to where something was or what he saw or anything like that at all, it's just, it's so frustrating to me. It is so utterly frustrating. I mean, my hat goes off to the detectives who do this stuff and are able to maintain decorum and whatnot doing this. Because this part right here, I'm just like, you would want to absolutely be shaking this man. Now, obviously, you can't do that because it would, you know, not be good. Okay, I get that. That's why they do what they do and I don't, okay?
Okay, remind me again what you were doing on 192?
I was looking around at different game shops. One of my card games just had a release on Friday, Lorcana.
What card are you talking about?
It's like a trading card game. And they had a big release on Friday, so I wanted to go around.
What's the card though?
I'm sorry?
What is the game?
It's called Lorcana.
Lorcana?
Yeah, Lorcana. It's a trading card game made by Disney.
Now, noticing this, doesn't even say the card name. Then gives another answer, and then I'm sorry, like buying time. Is like she wants to know what's the card game. You know what I'm saying? He's probably making this up too. You know, that part right there is the buying the time, the double negative answer. Not, I don't know how you say it, but like, what card game was this really popular game? They had a big release. Blah, blah. Okay, that's cute. What's the name? Huh? Bro, lucky they didn't punch him out.
I'm so sorry. I wish I could be more help. I'm so sorry.
And how long will you change your tire for?
I'm not sure how long it took. I got back here by like 2:35, 2:40, because I was trying to get home to go with her to go to school. We needed to leave by 2:30. The flat tire.
Now, at this point in this, when he was like even trying to come up with it, if I was a detective, I would have been like, just shut up about the time. We know, whatever. I'm not sure what time it was. I don't know how long it took me. Now, I get in a normal situation, we might be like, I can't remember. But again, I don't know, like 20, 30 minutes to change it, and then I end up being late because of it. Completely different answers. I mean, he has amnesia about everything.
Okay. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I know the details are important, and just the way our brains work with ADHD is those things can get fuzzy.
Yeah. He's used that excuse throughout the whole thing, the way our brains. Notice he doesn't take complete ownership of it, right?
Are you on any medication?
I'm supposed to be. I have not been medicated lately, so
Okay.
I'm not a morning person. I'm very time blind on the best of days and forgetful.
Time blind, forgetful. This part right here. Are you on a medication? I'm supposed to be. Well, you've just named off tons of tranquilizers, right? So, you know what I mean? I'm just like, and naming off every single, I'm time blind. Whatever. Makes me sick.
No, not since yesterday. Sorry, your hair is even still greasy.
I know you got a cut, right, from...
Yeah, from changing the tire.
Do you mind if I see your arms?
Yeah, go for it. I haven't changed the tire.
Do you mind taking your sweater off?
It's cold, but yeah.
It's cold, but yeah. Who says that, right? This is where, you know, the real him coming up, he doesn't want to be bossed around like this or told. He's probably very nervous as well. And then notice he wanted to go right into that story. You said you hurt your friend. Yeah, when I was doing the tire iron, blah, blah, blah. You know, he's so eager to tell that story and to come up with this little excuse for it, you know. And then the truth of him, it comes out again. Well, it's cold, but yeah, whatever.
I changed the tire in like 10 years. I made a rookie mistake. Got my thumb too close to the jack and the frame, and it slipped. Pinned my thumb in between the frame and the jack. I got lucky. I panicked and pulled it out, which you're not supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a lot of pain. I panicked.
And flip your hand over. Can you see the other arm?
Mm-hmm. Whatever my parents used for a tire iron in there.
Do you mind if I take a picture of the cut you got?
Yeah, go for it.
Now, one thing that's so interesting about that is, number one, he goes into the story, loves telling that story, right? Number two, he's like, come on, oh, there's a lot of blood, and I panicked, and I did this, and luckily, notice when the female detectives will talk, she'll talk over him. They're past, oh, I'm sorry at this point. She'll talk over him, and then he'll talk back over her, like, he'll raise his voice. There's 100% power struggle between him and her by the end of this, right? You know, he doesn't want to hear it. You know, in the household or whatever, if Jen probably talked to him in a certain way or whatever, whatever, tried to do that, oh, you know he'd be a certain way. You know he'd be a certain way about it, right? Now, those are all the clips. I know you're like, oh, that's it. I mean, it was damn near the whole thing, right, y'all? And I know some of this we went over in the last video, but there's so much more in this one that you know, hadn't come out yet or whatever. Again, overall, obviously at this point we know at the time of this recording, it's September 10th? Yeah, September 10th. He's not gone to trial yet. This is, you know, relatively still fresh. All this information's coming out. More and more stuff comes out. We know the evidence that was on the phone of all the abuse that he did to Madeline. We know he's incarcerated, whatever, right? Okay. So, hindsight with this, and then also looking at Jen's interviews and whatnot, you can piece together, you know, and again, I wasn't there, but you can kind of piece together what life was possibly like in this household. And again, it's very alarming to me how much, I'm going to say prescription drugs, but whatever that entails for him, the tranquilizers, the Ativan, whatever that was, the sleeping stuff, all of these were in the household. I'm sure Madeline was drugged on a regular basis. Jen seems to either willingly be drugged or who knows, right? But being knocked out was a theme in this house. Now, of course, with him, you know, we're not dumb. He's trying to get out of trouble. He doesn't want to get caught. He doesn't want to go to prison. He doesn't want to get old Sparky, okay? So he's going to lie and he's going to say what he needs to say. And looking at the dynamics of it, you know, I personally think what took place is something happened that evening. She was going to tell, she got hurt, she woke up, who knows, right? But she was 13, just turned 13. She was going to start coming to an age of, you know, bucking the system or bucking him or whatever. Like, this ain't gonna happen anymore, okay? So whatever it was, he had to take matters into his own hands. I don't think he went into that evening with that. I don't know. I would think if he was planning on doing that he would have pre-planned it, some of the stuff a little bit better, because the lies that he's telling are so basic that they were instantly found out, right? About where he was and this and that. Again, looking at all his excuses, he doubles back on everything, because when you're trying to make up time, it's next to impossible for the amount of time that he's missing. You know, it's just next to impossible. Now, of course, obviously they go back and they start pulling all this stuff and they get more evidence, right? And that's why he's behind bars. So again, with this case, what I'll be very fascinated to see is what comes out about Jen. Her involvement, lack of involvement, knowledge, lack of knowledge, all those things. And of course, at the center of it is the victim, is Madeline. And when we watch these cases, whether it's a child, an adult, whoever, but especially for a child, you know, when I sit here and imagine just what their life was like, and the good, the bad, the ugly, right? But obviously for someone like Madeline, she was going through some really serious stuff at the hands of this monster. So when you start to dissect and peel this away and look at what the snapshots of her life were like, it's incredibly heartbreaking. And then when you see someone like STEPHAN trying to get away with it, trying to minimize, and again, like I said, I obviously know anybody in his situation would do that. They would want to get caught. You know, it makes that much more frustrating. And in this case particularly, a lot of people are very frustrated with it because of the added layer of Jen and her behavior and what did she know, like all the things I just talked about, right? And only time will tell. Now again, she's not been charged. I do not think she's going to be charged with anything, right? Whether that's through immunity or what, we don't know. Now we know in the one thing that the cop was saying that he didn't believe her and he felt like she had accepted that the abuse was going on, right? And so, you know, there's that level. The level of normalcy that was presented in this household is anything but normal. And I don't like using the word normal. I think it's a bad word. However, in the realm of normalcy being like going through what Madeline went through and not, then yeah, this was an abnormal household, okay? Completely abnormal, right? So time will tell. You know, and I think this is going to be one of those cases, like I said, I will be surprised if the man takes it to trial, okay? I don't see it ending well for him, but who knows? My biggest, like I guess is my more concern to see what plays out is the Jen scenario. You know, is anything going to happen with her throughout this? So only time will tell. So that's it. This is a very long video. I appreciate you watching it with me, and we'll stay tuned on these interviews as more and more come out, more evidence comes out, and obviously depending on what takes place with the trial and justice. So that is it. Let me know what you think down in the comment section. I do appreciate you hanging out with me for this long, and leave some little sofas down there for myself and Rosco and Spirits so that we'll have a place to sit and talk about this case, Sarah Boone, all the cases we talk about here at the Sofa Squad. And until we meander our way down there, I'll see y'all soon. I just wanted to say thank you again for watching the whole video, and also thank you for being part of the Sofa Squad. Special thanks to all the Patreon members, channel members from both of my channels, everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, comments in the comment sections. It helps the channel out so much. Now, don't forget, I do have that other channel, the podcast channel. That's where we go live, we hang out, we talk. We have kind of sort of a schedule, but just be sure and check it out. I'll put it up here on the screen. Also, if you're looking for merch, be sure to check out my Teespring store. I'll put that up here. And then, like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to follow me and Rosco on the Instagram, go on, check it out. It's right here on the screen again. But once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad, and I'll see you in the next video.